Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order for Upson County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, July the 9th. If you would at this time, please rise for our invocation. Pastor Turner is here to take care of that business for us tonight. Remain standing for our pledge.
I sure will, and it sure is good to pray for a full house. Okay, let's go to the Lord. Father, I want to pause a moment just to come into your presence and ask forgiveness of our sin and cleansing, Lord. And Lord, just looking upon the crowd, no doubt about it, Lord, there's some things going on that people are going to be discussing. So what I'm asking, Lord, is tonight there be peace. Yes. Let everybody just be calm. Yes. And just be able to express themselves in a good manner. Yes. Amen. Just be with the commissioners, Lord. Yes. They've got decisions to make for our county. Just bless them, give them wisdom, yes, and let everybody conduct themselves in the proper way. Yes. And I know you're going to, Lord, because we love our county. We love our commissioners. They do a good job, Lord. So just bless now. For I claim this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Turner. Always good to hear from a sailor. Okay, let's take care of a little business here. We got a full house here, and I can't see in the hallway out there. Are there people in the hallway out there? Okay. Are there people in the hallway out there that are here for the Hope of the Generations Church public hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
They are. Okay. Are there people in the room here who are not here for Hope of the Generations public hearing who would be able to share your, let them have your space? I mean, if you would, it would seem like the right thing to do. If they want to swap now, I'm not saying you got to do it, but if you would, I just don't want anybody left out. We're limited on our space here. So, and if we don't fill it up, then maybe they can come back. But I really appreciate that, y'all. Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, next item on the agenda is a public hearing. It's a rezoning it's our rezoning 2024 TAC 03, Hope of Generations Church of Upson County, represented by Pastor T. Scott Harper, requested Upson County rezone 53.69 acres, more or less, at 212 McCard Road from AR to PM, planned development mixed use for development of the new House of Worship campus to include sanctuary, cottage, cabins, office, and recreational facilities. Property is currently owned by Alfred McCard of Atlanta, Georgia, and with that, and I would ask, if you would just ask the folks out there, conversations out there kind of blend over into here, so just ask them to be quiet out there for us.
Excuse me, everybody. Commissioners, actually, we can just keep it down just a little bit. The conversation is bleeding over into here. Just give us a few times to be real quiet. Keep the inside voice. Thank you.
Hey, I was just, I had to do a shout out for the sailor. Now I'm going to do a shout out for the soldier. Okay. So with that, is there a motion to open the public hearing? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of opening the public hearing? Public hearing's open. All right. Y'all just bear with me a second. I'll make sure I get this right. All right. There are multiple sign-up sheets, and just so everybody understands, this one that is full is for Hope of the Generations, and then we have a general comments section later, and there's a Elaine Jackson, McCard Road.
That's me.
Are
You can strike it off.
You can mark it off. The other 3 meetings I came to, I had to sign another one for attendance.
Okay, so I'll do that. You said so, I'm gonna do that. All right, and so, all right. And Mr. Sattler, were you intending to speak during the public hearing that we're gonna hear next? I think he might have walked outside. We'll get him next. Oh, he signed up for that one too. All right. So, if you've not been to a county commission meeting, our policy is you get 5 minutes. We'll have 5 minutes, it'll be up there. You address your comments to the board through the chair, okay? Just please be mindful of your time. I'll ask you to come up here. We've got a couple X's on the floor. That's so the folks on our broadcast can see you and hopefully hear you. With that said, I will also say this, because there are a lot of people, all right, signed up for comment, and this is going to take some time. I think all of us have watched the Planning Commission meetings, both of them. So I'm just saying that so that, you're not talking to us like this is the first. It is your first time before the Board of Commissioners. So, but if, your comments that you made at the Planning Commission, we've heard them too through that. So if you want to talk about something else that you didn't have the time to get in related to this application, or if you want to shorten it up and say, hey, just to remind you, at the Planning Commission, I said this and I still feel that way. I think that we would all appreciate that. We've got a packed house tonight. So, but it is your 5 minutes. So, so I'm just going to start at the top and go down. After public comments, we'll exit the public hearing. There'll be we'll turn it over to staff. The applicant has a representative here that's going to present first, right? Or
Preferably during the public hearing is when they would present first, but however you want to run it, Mr. Chair.
y'all want to hear from the applicant first, or during the public hearing, or you want to?
We can hear from the applicant during the public hearing, we'll have public comments, and then we can base off comments based off what the applicant have an opportunity to speak towards those.
Well, we did let you go last, sir. That way you can maybe, during your 5 minutes, address some of the concerns for and against. Okay. All right, so we'll get started. So as I call your name, if you would please come up here to one of those two marked spots, state your name and address for the record, and you'll get your 5 minutes. Mr. Pitts.
I think he just left. And he changed his mind. Mr. Chairman of the County Commission, my name is Joel Pitts, my address is 719 North Delray Road, Thomaston, Georgia. I've been a resident of Upton County all my life. And I'm here to oppose and what we are about to look at tonight. I feel like that when a room is filled with Upton County residents who oppose a change for their life, home, community, and Upton County Commission does not hear their opposition. Upton County, of course, Upton County, in my opinion, will not benefit from this transaction. Monetarily, only one person will benefit from this, and that happens to be T. Scott Harper. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Nope, just going top to bottom. Mr. Scott Harper, Pastor Harper.
Gentlemen, my name is Pastor Scott Harper. I am the senior pastor of Hope the Generations Church and the president and CEO of Being Help, which is our international ministry. We are looking to rezone that area. We are oh, you want to restart the clock? I'll pause.
Most pastors don't talk long.
Yeah, right. I appreciate the opportunity. I know that over the last few months, we have said a lot of things. The engineer will speak mostly for what we're doing for the property. Couple things I want to bring to attention that have been said over the last few months that were concerns. There's a lot of concerns about traffic. There's reports the engineer will talk about of what that looks like. There are concerns about the cutbacks, the setbacks, we'll keep it green. We're bringing EV people in, environmental protection people, to make sure we're not damaging something here in Upson County. But the one thing that keeps coming back and forth that really is on my heart to share today is I keep hearing the word community. That the community doesn't want us to move there. And the last time I checked, we've been here 30 years as a church. We celebrate 30 years this year in November. I graduated high school in '91 here in this building. I don't remember what classroom this was. I think it was English. Our church is part of this community. We may not be the neighbors, but we are community. Our entire purpose, our entire heart to be here is to better Upson County and the community. Throughout the years, we've had numerous people come through. And I know this number causes both an applaud and also a cringe that at the end of this year, we will have over 40,000 people visit our church. There's been argument over previous meetings on whether or not we are or are not a church. We are a church, a non-denominational church that believes in the Bible. We believe in the Holy Spirit. We're a church. We meet on Friday nights at 7 o'clock, on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, for those that need to know where we're at. During the week, we do a teaching class. We teach people biblical principles, no different than vacation Bible schools that Baptist churches and other churches throughout here do. We're just a church, wanting a place to stay, a safe place to expand, to grow a little bit bigger, to stretch out our wings a little bit more, expand our tents just a hair. That piece of property is a beautiful piece of property. Over the years, the McCard family has had it. He's not allowed anybody to hunt on it, travel on it, do anything on it. We're not going to hunt it. We're going to develop it for people to come here, to visit Upson County, to see how awesome Upson County is. For the comments that made before, do I get paid by the church? Yes. Does that change just because we get a new building? No. It actually probably means we're going to put more work into it, to develop it more so more people can come here. And a lot of the people you're going to hear share today, some are for us and some are against us. A lot of them moved here to be a part of Upson County, to help pay taxes, to help pave roads, to do all they do to support Upson. They've made this their home. They've made themselves a part of the community because that's what we are. We are a community church, and that's all we're asking to be able to do at this piece of property on McCarb Road, is just be a community church. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hefton? Ben Hefton?
My name's Ben Hefton. I live at 1519 Pleasant Valley Road. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my parents who was not able to be here tonight. They live at 4981 Crest Highway, directly across the street from the new property. And we moved here, well, we've been a part of the church since 2008. We travel back and forth eating local restaurants when we come to visit until 2015 when my parents moved here. I followed in 2016 and have been a resident here in Upson County ever since. My two boys are in rec ball here in Upson County, daughter in dance here in Upson County, and this is our home. This is where we're planning on staying, and we are in favor of the church because of what the church stands for and what the benefits from this new property will bring to the church and to the community.
Thank you, sir. Let's see, Casey Elliott, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
My name is Casey Elliott, address 6817 Crest Highway. I'm not here tonight to say anything bad about the church or say anything, about what kind of religious beliefs or they practice or anything like that. I just think the location is not great where they want to build a church. I've been in that area now. My family has 4th generation. so we know all about the area. Someone said they've been here 30 years, okay. But basically, it's going to be a large facility. This part of it's going to be pretty much, I know they're a church, but still it's a business. Part of it, they're taking in revenue. They're going to make money off of it. It's a business. There's already been a precedent set for that area where the same gentleman, the McCord gentleman, actually sold some property to the Mennonite church. Pretty sure it's the Mennonites with the country cover. They actually wanted to put a church and some thrift stores and some other things there, and they were actually denied. Since then, they have actually sold it to a family that's actually here tonight because they were denied. So there's a precedent to the area. One side of McCord Road /74 is where the Hope of Generation is going to build. The other side is where the Mennonites are going to build. So that's one thing. And then the facility they're going to have, I think it's going to be 72,000 square foot. It's a large facility. Think about anything else here in Upton County that's that large. It's going to have 400, and I think last time I heard it was 16 parking spaces. That's a lot of parking spaces. Anywhere else like that, it's pretty much here in town. It has the water drainage, it has the water system, it has everything to support that. Out there, pretty much they're going to have to put a septic tank system in, and they're going to have some kind of runoff. My understanding from the other engineers that was here last time is they're going to have some kind of catchment pond that's going to be treated. You hear the other residents here tonight, you've probably seen also in the planning meeting where there's a lot of rain there. What happens if the rain affects the septic system? What if it happens to affect the water runoff pond, or whatever you want to call it? And then that gets out into the nearby creeks, it gets into the locals' wells, and then it ends up in the Flint River, because those creeks lead to the Flint River ultimately. And affects the wildlife and everything else. And as far as I know, the water line the church is going to use only goes down to actually the main highway. I don't think it goes off the main highway. Everyone out there uses wells, as far as I know. Well, I know the well part, but as far as the water line goes. So that's another thing to think about. If any of that escapes, it could affect the people's well, affect their life. You gotta have water. So just keep that in mind. Also, the wildlife, the traffic's another issue. Places here in town would be better for that as well. You know, manage the traffic. Everywhere the time I come down is pretty much bad. Y'all seen it in the planning meeting, people discuss it. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Pretty much everything in that business and everything, it'd be different if they're building it here in town. It's already zone. Then you also have the noise too. If people in town choose to live in a noisier area, to be close to everything. People out there like the seclusion of the country, and they like to do. I know you're gonna hear some people talk about they shoot and everything like that. I mean, you got people shooting, and you got people celebrating over there in concerts. It kind of doesn't necessarily mix. So my thing is the location of it. So I'm opposed to it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Stan Elliott.
Chairman, Commissioners, I've lived out at Crest all my life. My property is a rock throw from where the church's property is, right across the road. We've got a very dangerous intersection at Haven Church, Ellerbytown, 74 and Pickard Road. Very dangerous. We've already got that motel for the church, and we've got Chris Grill. I have enough racket out there from the zip strips the state had put on the side of the road to go along with the jake brakes. Environmentally, there's not but one high spot on that whole property. I don't know whether this engineer they've got has walked around on that property, but being a kid and being all over it, there's one high spot. And my whole problem is there are people that's come in here and bought land. How would you like somebody to come right across the road from you and walk in and say, okay, I'm going to put 72,000 square foot of building under roof, 400 and something parking spots. The building's going to have water runoff. The cotton picking parking lot's going to have water runoff. And my understanding, this is going to be over a 5-year period. All right, I can tell you from doing construction work and working for trucking companies and stuff, when you come in and you remediate land, the environment around it, once they put that stuff up and they stop doing construction, they stop keeping it up, then you're going to have water runoff, you're going to have dirt runoff, and these people don't want their ponds filled up. I mean, that's something to think about. As far as the traffic on Pickard Road, it's going to be bad. That's a little small road, it's already broken up and everything else. And this is a business. You got housing over in Pleasant Valley, you got housing at the motel, and these people bring people in to make money off of housing them and teaching them. I mean, a church doesn't have a board of directors. A church has a board of deacons. And that's something to think about too. And 95% of the time, a church with its deacons don't have investors. They've got donors. So the whole thing is, why do you want to take a rural area with shallow wells, no big septic system or anything else, put 72,000 square feet on the roof, and turn around and have the water run off and all, and no septic system, and the cabbage, they're gonna have septic system. So that's more septic. The people with the ponds, the people with the wells around there, my well's 100 foot deep. I got 75 foot of water. So when that stuff runs off, where's it going? And eventually it's gonna come up. I can tell you for a fact, the sewage system is gonna come to the top, one place or the other. I don't care what you do with it. The other thing is that whenever you start bringing people in with drug problems, psychiatric problems, demeanor problems, and them being unfit for anywhere else, and coming from all over the world, we're in a rural area. Why do we need something else out there? And I'll tell you this much, before when that church was put down in that school, I remember when this all went on, and the people in the Thurston community did not want it, and they voiced their opinion, but it was sold and was put in there anyway. So, you know, please don't decide that you're gonna put something back down there that we never wanted. And as far as the community, you know, I've never heard anything from these people until the church the first time. I hadn't heard anything from since then, and I've been in the Thurston volunteer community all but about 3 years of my life, and I'm 69 years old. So my biggest thing is, don't bring a lot of excess traffic. Noise, I can hear everything goes on at Crestside Grill and that motel. And all I do is live down the road just a little piece. So we would appreciate it if y'all would say no. Thank you very much.
Michelle's.
I live at 25 Hickory Road. Good evening, Board of Commissioners. Good evening, Chairman Allen. My name is Adrienne Shales, and my family and I have called Thomaston home for 24 years. Thompson, Georgia is a place that we love. We love the pleasant people, the close-knit community, and the shared opportunities for growth. We're in this together, and that's what makes our community so special. This church and the expansion, I believe, is for the greater good of our community. People that have come here, they come for a week, their lives are changed, they are generous patrons to our local economy, to our local restaurants and establishments. And some people love it so much, they actually move here and they call Thomaston home. As my experience with regional commission planning, I've had experience with future site development mapping, character mapping, and I understand the impact of the decision tonight related on the planning level. As a resident on Pickard Road, I appreciate the church's commitment to keep the distinct rural character by having the generous setbacks, by having indigenous landscaping and architecture. So I believe this community church will be a good neighbor to this community. So again, I want to say, this place is our home all together. This is a place of shared opportunity and growth, and that's what makes our community so special. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I can read the first name, but I'm not quite sure. Scott?
Gall.
Okay.
My name's Scott Gall. I live at 1740 Pickard Road, right down the street from where this land is. Lived there over 2 years, drive by this land every day. Been at all the meetings, haven't said anything until now. I was introduced to Thomaston about 12 years ago. Since that time, I've seen Chick-fil-A come in, Longhorn Steakhouse, there's a Whataburger coming, there's an Aldi's coming, there's 40 townhomes coming, there's a hotel coming. So if there's one thing I've learned in those 12 years is that change is coming to Thomaston. So what I'd like us all to think about and my neighbors think about is everybody wants to keep that land the way it is. It is not going to stay the way it is. Somebody is going to buy that land, somebody is going to develop that land. So what do we want to go in there? A church where 70% of it stays the same, it's well maintained, it has environmental restrictions, or do we want to see housing complexes come in there? Put 40 homes there, put apartments there, put townhouses there. Pick something that you want to go there, because it is not going to stay the same. Somebody's going to buy that land, and somebody's going to develop it. I'm voting for the church, because at least it's going to stay 70% the way it is now. The traffic will be predictable. It's not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, coming and going, moving in, moving out. It's very predictable, and I'm picking the church over what else could go in there.
All right, Desiree, and I can't quite make out the last name.
My name is Desiree Colston.
What's your last name, man?
Colston.
Colston.
Yes.
Okay, and your
Yes.
address?
I live at 121 Salbar Street, Thomaston, Georgia.
Okay, ma'am.
And I wrote it out. Okay, so for the expansion, I am 100% for it. The reason is that Being Health is a community. I've worked there for 4 years. We buy locally. We try to make sure that we can buy as much as we need locally. Serendipity, Dickies, we have vendors that we work with when we have events to come in. And we've done health fairs, and we will be doing another one on Sunday that we were sought out by Jackson, Georgia to come and be a part of that. I'm originally from Newcastle, Pennsylvania, and I moved here in 2020 with my husband and my daughter. My daughter has attended the OA, which is the Overcomers Academy. Been there for 4 years, graduated salutatorian, was nurtured, cared for, and taught. She will be going to college. She will be able, it is an accredited school. She also attended dance at Sarah, what's the name of the place? Sarah Armstrong's. And I was on the TUAC board for a year. I consider Thomaston, Georgia, my home. I came here in 2019 to attend one of those retreats. Not on drugs, not a menace to society. Very well educated. Knew that I needed help, knew that I wanted help, knew that I wanted the Bible to become real for me. Knew that I wanted to understand healing, knew that I wanted to understand what community was. So I came here. When I came here, we ended up moving here in 2020. I'm not a part of a clique. I'm not a part of anybody's knowing. I'm not being paid to say anything. I'm saying this because what I've seen for 4 years is consistency. The consistency has been faith. The consistency has been transparency. The consistency has been help. The consistency has been kindness, love, and peace. I've been taught to be a better person. My marriage is better. My daughter is doing amazing. I'm like Mr. Gall, I vote for the church. Somebody is going to buy that land, period. At the end of the day, do we want somebody that has said, let me work with you, let me do X, Y, and Z so that we can be better? If it's so bad out there with the water, with the wells, why haven't these things been addressed? Why haven't they gone to different people and said, hey, we have these issues, and so because we have these issues, we want our roads fixed. We want X, Y, and Z. I don't hear that. So that's been my concern. The other thing is that the people that come, I worked in guest services, the people that come, they are screened. You cannot come if you are on alcohol. You cannot come if you are in an abusive relationship. We don't allow that. It's a safe place. And the people that work there love what they do. We are a community, and we love Thomaston, and we want the best for Thomaston. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Charles Wacola, did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Man,
I'm Charles Baltola. I live at 50 McCord, which is at where the campground's going to be. My pasture backs up to that, which is going to be 100. They say 100 feet. I'll be able to see right through. It really bothers me of having the biggest attraction in Georgia, apparently, in my backyard. I don't want that. That's exactly why I moved. I moved from Covington, Georgia, in an area that was blowing up, just like this is doing. And we came here 7 years ago, and bought this place out in the country because that's exactly what I was looking for. A lake, creek, mountainous property, beautiful land. I love it. I'm going to fight for it. I'm very, I'm tired of, this kind of stuff happening in areas. I mean, I know that growth happens, but we moved way out away to make sure that we got in an area that we could be safe for a few years. And I don't want to see this in my lifetime. I know that, and I tried to buy this property, by the way. Me and Chris Jackson both tried to buy the property to split it and keep it like it is. That's how much it meant to me to keep it the way it is. I'm still willing to buy the property. I raise my grandchildren up there. I mean, they go exploring through the woods. We walk and we hunt, we fish, we go shoot shotguns, whatever we want to do. We're having a good time. I hate to see all of that just disappear in the next few years here. While I'm healthy and young enough to entertain my grandkids, I'm going to do it. It's a big deal. I just like the environmental impact alone. And by the way, I used to hunt that property for the last 6 years. I've hunted that property only until last year when something happened. I don't know what happened. He called me and said, "You need to get your stand off my property." And I'm like, well, I put it right in this pasture right there, right out in the open where everybody can see it. And it's been there for 4 years. I don't understand where they say that nobody's ever hunted the property. I hunted it. I know every inch of that property. And I don't have a clue how they're going to put that much area up there anyway. It just doesn't make sense. But I just want to be known as I oppose it, and I've got too much invested right now just to give up. I'm not going to give up. It's just, can you imagine the biggest attraction in Thomaston or in Georgia coming to your backyards? Anybody? I mean, that just doesn't sound great. And our road does not support. McCard Road, have you seen that? Do y'all know anything about McCard Road? It's a little narrow lane, and it's chuck holes and cracked up and all that. I don't know how it's going to support that kind of traffic. Now they say it's on the other. And if you turn on either direction on that road, I mean, I don't want all those cars coming by my house at any time of day, whatever time of day it is. It's just, I'm very opposed to it, and I hope that, y'all look in your hearts and say, well, do I want that in my backyard? I don't want that in my backyard. And it is my backyard. My dad's next door to, we have 30 acres together. His property is right next to mine, and we explore every bit of it. I use every bit of 30 acres. I use it all. And we, like I said, we want to buy the other pieces, but it wasn't available. It was, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared for us. So I guess we didn't have the highest bid. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jacqueline Lewis.
Hello, thank you, Chairman Allen. I live at 1978 Pickard Road, and as I have stated before, the only thing that concerns me is the ingress egress of Pickard Road, of where they're planning or potentially planning to put it. I think it's a very dangerous intersection. But I appreciate Ms. Shell and Mr. Gall comments, because I would echo those. I had much rather a facility that occasionally, not every day, has events to be there, which will be on county water, that won't put a strain on my well. I've been there 37.5 years. And I think that the church is a better option for our community. Still not for the ingress egress. However, I think that the church it would be a better fit than 40 or 50 houses, which every one of those are not going to be on county water. They're going to be on wells, and they're going to put a strain on us. And I'm sure from the due diligence that I have done that the state, the EPA, the EPD, and the alphabet soup will make sure that all of the septics, the water systems, everything, and the runoffs, they're very, very strict on those types of things. And I know that because I worked in planning and zoning, they don't play with that. They're going to make sure that all of that is done correctly. On the for or against, I'm not for it, I'm not against it, but I am against someone putting 40 or 50 houses there. I had much rather the church be there, but I just hope that they really look at the traffic flow and where they're looking at putting the ingress, egress on both sides, because I know that there has to be two. And I know with the new well system that you guys are working on, that it will sustain them for how many gallons that they need per day. So I just hope that whatever you do, whatever decision that you make, that it's the right decision for the community, but it's also the right decision for the church and for our road on Picker Road. I don't live on McCard Road, and I would like the community to continue to grow and to continue to stay close-knit. But again, I moved out there just to have that space, not to live in an apartment on, Fifth Avenue in New York, because I've been there too. But it's nice, and I have met with these folks at the church, and I'm fairly certain that they will do exactly what they say they're going to do.
Thank you, ma'am. Sue White?
Good evening, 100 Diamond Head, Thomaston. This evening I'm here to share my heart and to invite you to join our church, Hope of the Generations, in an amazing opportunity. Indeed, we have a remarkable pastor, Mr. Scott Harper, who has a noble commitment. He wants to bring hope and encouragement and healing and blessing, not only to the people of Thomaston, but people across the country, even an outreach to other countries. And just as Noah was given a mandate to build an ark, a place of safety and refuge, Pastor Scott has this vision to build an ark right here in Thomaston. It's going to be a campus, a place of safety and refuge where people can come with hurts and failures and find supernatural healing and restoration. I know to many of you it may not make sense in the natural. Even for Noah, it was unsettling. There were no large bodies of water at that time. They'd never even seen rain.
Focus your comments here.
Before. And yet, this is what he was called to do. We too at Hope of the Generations Church know we've been called to this journey. And with Noah's incredible calling, he preserved life on this earth, and we even today are reaping the benefits. What a privilege it is for Upson County to embrace this opportunity of allowing us to build a place of refuge, a destination that can transform lives on a deep and personal level that would minister to body, soul, and spirit. The storms of life can be daunting, but what a difference Thomaston can make in being a beacon of hope. By embracing this vision of a church that desires to bring hope to the hurting, to discouraged, and freedom to the oppressed, there is no higher calling. And as we consider the ancient writings and history, we can learn much and confirm without a doubt blessing and favor comes to those who join with the work of God. Remember Joseph, a slave in Potiphar's house, and yet his presence there with his allegiance with the Lord influenced Potiphar to make him overseer of his entire house and all that he had. And the Lord blessed the Egyptian house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. We know this will be true as well for the immediate neighborhood as well as for all of Thomaston. Even when Joseph was thrown in prison, once again he was given blessing and favor and was ultimately promoted to second in command of all of Egypt. And then he was able to save the people from 7 years of a devastating famine. Think too of the Shunammite woman who graciously opened up her home for Elisha and the remarkable results. She was the first time able to conceive a child where she hadn't been able to before. And when her son became desperately ill, this man of God was there to minister healing and restoration. Indeed, blessings come to those who are willing to share their homes, willing to share their environment and their sphere of influence. And then one of my favorites, a mere 2 fish and 5 loaves. 5,000 men, not including women and children, were supernaturally fed. What an impact that blessing made. And would you too be willing to share some of your loaves with us, our church, so that we can commit this to heaven's jurisdiction and see thousands fed with the Word of God? Personally, I've been so abundantly blessed by this church. I moved here from Southern California with my family 12 years ago and experienced the goodness of God without limits because of what this church has given to me and my family. So tonight I challenge you to consider that you have been placed in this position for such a time as this, to have the beautiful opportunity to embrace our vision, which would bring hope and healing at an even greater level to our sweet town of Thomaston. Jesus, our Lord and Savior, came that we might have life and that more abundantly. And that too is our church's calling, to bring life, to bring hope, and that more abundantly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Candy Garcia. And I just remind everybody once more time, your comments are to the board through the chair, so just keep that in mind. I've been kind of lenient a little bit. Let's reel it back in. All right.
My name is Candy Garcia. I live at 5 Glencliff Road, Thomaston, Georgia. I am a retired electronic technician from Florida who used to work at AT&T. I want to share why we need to improve the zoning for the Hope of the Generations Church and Be in Health campus. When I first came to Be in Health, I had hypothyroidism, which is Hashimoto's disease, and now I am completely healed by God. Also, I was healed of anxiety, panic attacks, and depression. I can now have good friendships because of this ministry and my church's family-oriented atmosphere and support. I am in favor of the zoning being approved for the new church and ministry campus, not just because of how my life has changed, but also because we can continue to help others. This is one reason why we need to have our zoning approved, so that we can continue to serve others, reach out and be a blessing to the neighbors in the zoning area as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Charles Wacola.
Yep.
Charles Watola, 46 McCard Road. My property borders on 2 sides of the property being developed. I'm on the east side of McCard Road, on the south side where the cabins are going to go. In 2015, my wife and I began looking for a new place to make our forever home, moving from Cobb County. I lived most of my life in Cobb, growing up in Mableton when it was still rural, raising our children in Marietta. We looked for rural areas then because we were tired of the stress caused by the congestion, traffic, and lack of privacy, all over development in Cobb County. We first looked in North Georgia, then Lower Alabama, then Middle Georgia. We found several good places, but we decided Upson County was the best choice for us, for what we were looking for. 15 acres, a small home, ponds, area for chickens, pigs, cows, privacy, a rural area mostly undeveloped. Up to now, we feel this was the best choice for our family. Now we wonder if we would be forced to leave and search again. Our concerns are many. All the families in the surrounding community and the contiguous property are united in our opposition to this development. We believe that there are many other sites available in the county where they can develop without opposition. We are all on wells and concerned about seepage from their septic system, which as of the last meeting was still not designed. Anything that threatens our water threatens the lives of me and my family. I'm concerned about the runoff for the construction flooding my ponds. Because of the unique topography, the rainwater flows down with violent velocity in this area, and the lay of the land is such that it funnels down from that site directly to my pond. There's not enough silt fence in Upson County to deter it. And our properties, all the surrounding properties, we all participate in shooting activities on our properties, which is completely legal at this time. We hunt on our own property. Are the people in the cabins going to be calling the police every time they hear gunshots? These people come from all over the world. They're not going to be used to that, and there will be many gunshots. We do not believe that this development conforms to the character of the community. Also, there was another request for the variance already mentioned in the recent past for the property right across the street. That request was denied with good reason. And for you to be consistent with previous decisions, this decision should also be denied. Everyone that's opposed to this development lives in the immediate area. Those in support lives miles away. They can come and enjoy their development and then leave to go back to their privacy they still have. We who live here will still have to put up with the increased traffic, noise, lack of privacy, safety issues, and others. We in opposition are all property owners, taxpayers, and voters. We believe our concerns should be taken seriously. And as far as the comments about someone's going to buy it and someone's going to develop it, well, they're not going to develop without your approval. There's not, as long as that zoning remains the same, there's not going to be 50 apartment buildings going there. So we want to know how you would feel if your next door neighbor built a parking lot for over 400 vehicles with the intention to put as many cars in there every day as possible. You might be opposed to that, and that's why we're opposed to it. So I think I appreciate the work that the Planning Commission has already put into this, and I appreciate your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Sir, thank you. Elaine Jackson.
My name is Elaine Jackson. I live at 105 McCard Road. When we moved there several years ago, we have all the land in between 74 and McCard. We moved as far away from 74 as we could. We met the 35-foot setback from the side of your house to the road. So my side of my house is 35 foot from the road, and my front porch, I face Mr. Leon's house and the where they are saying to put one of their entrance or exits, one of those. And I was thinking as I listened to other people say they had 40,000 people come through this year. You know, that's a lot of cars on that road, 40,000. That's quite a bit. We have the same concerns that have been said at all the meetings that you already heard, so I won't go into that. Traffic concerns, stormwater runoff, noise, air pollution, potential adverse effects to the landscape, water table changes, property values affected. And I'm going to tell you what everybody else told you. I'm going to tell you my opinion based on what's best for me. That's what the church is doing, and that's what everybody stood up here and did. So don't know if you've already made your mind up before the meeting or not, but I would ask you just take one 10-second period and imagine if you were me. I really feel like the proximity affects me more than anybody else in this county or on McCard Road because it is my front porch view. Personally, I don't want what they consider to be a convenient location to negatively impact the quality of my daily life and my future. I have an autistic grandson who is nonverbal that does not understand road safety. That is a big concern for me. He comes to my house often and I keep him as his mother works. It is hard to find special need daycare. Also, in the time it takes to cut everything down and all the fires and all that, that's also a breathing concern. My husband has asthma and my son struggles with bronchitis and breathing issues as well. And I can tell you, I eat out in this community too. I pay taxes too. We all do. Everybody that lives here. That doesn't affect whether you should get something or not. I grew up here. I graduated from here. But I've also given back to the community myself. My husband is a pastor of a non-denominational church that believes in healing. I don't want to build my own church across the street from me. I don't think anybody would want to do that. And this is a really elaborate facility for Thomaston, Georgia. I've also taught here in this county for 25 years. So I'm going to take a minute and do something I do with my students. I'll be starting my 25th year next month. And when they have a concept that's kind of hard for them to get sometimes, I try to bring it down and give them a scenario or analogy that makes it a little bit easier to understand. I don't want to look out there and see it. I don't want a red light. I don't want the traffic. I don't want anything to do with that. No, it has nothing to do with who's putting it there. I am not against them. I am against this. It is all down to one thing, location. So here's my scenario. Building this huge facility in the woods on a small country back road makes as much sense as this scenario. Imagine there's a vet office and a training facility built in the parking lot area next to Chili's. The vet comes and asks to rezone the gas station at Walmart for farm animals. He can tear down the buildings, dig up the gas tanks, get up the concrete, bring in all the dirt, plant grass, put up fencing, nice fencing, so it looks good to everybody that drives past it. And he can put his animals in there for training. I mean, that's the most convenient thing to do because it's close to his office. Well, they could even put a cattle crossing sign up on 19 to help with any potential accidents or any traffic problems. But in my opinion, it would not be convenient. It would not be the best place to put the pasture. It all comes down to location. Again, I'm not against the hope of generations, and I'm not against commerce in Thomaston. Part of the taxes paid teacher salaries. But McCard Road is not the logical best place to put this elaborate new facility that reminds me of versions of churches in much larger cities. They have money to buy and build in other locations that don't have to be rezoned and are more cohesive to what they are trying to accomplish. I wish them the best. I hope they keep teaching, healing, and whatever God leads them to do, but not in my yard. Thank you.
Chris Jackson.
I addressed several issues last time, and I'm not going to
So,
mention them again.
Just to-
I'm sorry. 105 Chris Jackson, 105 McCord Road.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I addressed several issues last time, and I'm not going to go back over them. I heard him say a while ago they have had 40,000 people in this facility. You know what McCord Road is? You know what the width of it is? You know what the width of McCord Road is from one end to the other? Do you have any idea what the condition of McCord Road is right now as a county commissioner?
Sir, towards me.
Okay, he's on the board too. Do you have any
Down
idea
to
how
the
wide the
foot?
road is and what the road condition is?
This is your time, sir, not
But
question
you
or
can't
answer.
answer a question because you haven't been out there. You
Oh, I
don't
haven't.
live there. The road is crumbling from one end to the other. It is dangerous on both exits to 74. The road only stays the full width when I scrape it with my machinery, because nobody from the county comes out there and cleans all the leaves and the pine straw. When a tree falls across it, guess who cuts it off? Me. Those tree limbs fall off his property. I've been getting them up for years. Nobody does anything on this ragged, broke down road. But now we want to put the main entrance to their grand facility in a curve that right now the width of it is only about 16 foot because the pine straw and the leaves are all the way out into the roadway on the right-hand lane. And I have met many people in the center of that road because I live there. You wouldn't want this traffic on the road where you live. I know where you live. Your road has been recently repaved. And nobody in your community would want it there. Not one. You wouldn't want it at yours. You wouldn't want it at yours either. I moved out of the city from right over here across from Riverside Nursing Home because I listened to fire trucks and all that stuff. I don't want to listen to that. I don't want to see that. My grandson is 7 years old and he is autistic. And the danger that these cars will bring up and down that road every day, apparently, is too much risk for my grandson's life. Again, it don't make no difference. You don't live there. I do. When we walk out of our front door, the facility would be right there. Oh, they're going to plant these trees and they're going to do this. Go right around. The other thing y'all talking about later on, they got trees out there been dead and the man's been trying to get them replanted and they had nobody made them replant them. Because nobody enforces the rules. This place, they don't even have a full out plan yet. It's not, they came in here 3 different meetings
And they didn't have all the stuff together. They had a few of this, had a few of that. And by the way, they went first. The planning people that have all the answers, they went first in those other meetings. But they get to speak last tonight. That's kind of flip-flop. They haven't given us, the lady on the planning commission asked this question, like, what are you going to do with the sewage? 72,000 square foot. The parking lot is huge. They're going to be water. Where's all that going? The lady said, well, you know, if you got these problems with your wells and drainage, then call. We don't have those problems now. But if this facility is built, we have this chance of developing them. I'm not against the church either. Like my wife said, I am a pastor. I believe in healing. I believe you can get healed right here, right now. You ain't got to go to anybody's church. God will heal you where you're at. This facility owns property all over Upson County. And people stay in it, but they pay to stay in it. There's plenty of the land that can be developed to build this facility in better areas. Everything, yeah, Thompson is growing. But that place out there is an agriculture and a residential community. The only reason those 3 buildings are there now and are commercial is because 75 years ago, we didn't have Walmart, we didn't have Kmart, we didn't have Dollar General, we didn't have, you had a store in the community, and 7-8 miles down the road there was another store, 7-8 miles there was another store. That's the only reason those places are commercial there right now. Nothing else around there is commercial. They have a big facility now. Obviously they bring a lot of folks through there. They're building a pad for something out front now. They've had that done in the last week and a half. Another big pad out in the front. Why can't they keep building there? The location is not the right place. And again, I understand you don't live there, but I do. And I would appreciate you voting no and letting them find somewhere else. And I did try to buy the land. He sold 100 acres, 30 acres across the street for $100,000 5 years ago. When I asked him about purchasing this property, he told me he wanted $350,000 for 50 acres. And I know land has went up some, but it ain't went up that much on that side of town.
Okay.
It's a money issue.
Thank you, sir. All right. Having a tough time. I think I can make out the last name. Cleve?
Yep.
What's
First name Chad,
okay.
last name Cleve, 2303 Pickett Road in Thomaston, Georgia. My wife and I actually come from Iowa. I lived on a farm when I was a kid. Grew up on a farm, baling hay, milking cows, raising hogs. Loved the farm life, loved being out in the country. My wife grew up on an acreage out in the area in Iowa as well. We moved to Georgia due to health issues for my wife and ended up in Griffin, Georgia. Learned about an HOA. Learned I don't like HOAs. Found a property in the country with 9 acres. Rundown house, needed a whole lot of work. Wasn't even really inhabitable when we first got there. We lived in our motorhome, don't tell anybody, for the first couple months while we were remodeling. Sorry, Dad. But the bottom line is, when you see the pictures of the facility that they're looking to build, our entire property borders it on the west and the north side. This whole area over here, that's us. That's our entire property. We do a lot of activities out there. We love out in the woods. I mean, I grew up on a farm. I'm a farm boy by trade. That's what I love to do. I love to be out there with my tractor and do different things. I agree with everybody here who says there's a better place for that church. I don't know where that place is. I didn't grow up in Upson County. I'm not from here for 30 years. My parents aren't from here. I don't know a whole lot about Upson County. My grandkids go to the school here. That's about all I can tell you. And in fact, I didn't even know where the school was until they started going to the school here. So I have no history here. But what I do have is I have a future here. My wife has a lot of health issues. I can't even be, there's not enough time, even if you give me 30 more minutes to go through all of them. But we end up in the hospital a lot. Lots of tests, lots of problems, lots of health issues. Air quality is a huge thing for her. Hence the reason we left part of the big city area and moved into the country. Our neighbors are trees. Our neighbors are birds. We have some chickens, and the coyotes don't kill them all. We have some ducks. We have a small pond. We have privacy. We moved there for the privacy. Not because of the house, not because of the property or anything like that, because it was all run down. We've remodeled it and redone all kinds of stuff there. But what I want you to understand is we went there to find the peace and quiet that we found. And I don't want to give that peace and quiet up. I don't know what 40,000 people is, but I don't like people. I don't people well. Let's put it that way. I don't. Let's put it plain and simple. There are some circumstances, right, where when you live in your property, you just don't want to deal with certain things, right? Noise, commotion, loud communities, whatever it might be. That's why a person moves to the country. If I wanted noise and commotion, I'd move to downtown Atlanta. But I don't live in downtown Atlanta because of what we were looking for. Hi. And what we found. I didn't see you there, I'm sorry. And what we found. And we found that peace and quiet. We found that serenity. We sat out on our back porch and we listened to the rain fall. Our back porch will look right over the hill into whatever the property is that they're looking to build. We shoot our guns. I don't apologize for that. We have a lot of them. We shoot a lot of them. We practice a lot. I don't want to lose that because we'll be shooting directly towards where they're looking to build this property. All of a sudden, that's a problem. I hope they can run fast. I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's just simply, why would we have to change what we do and what we've done just because they come in, right? Now, I agree with other people. It could be a lot worse. It could be some other establishment that wants to build there. But that would require your approval. I don't see that happening, right? So I want you to consider if you were, as the one gentleman was saying, if it was you and you had this lifestyle change because of a decision that was made and somebody else wanted to buy something that as agriculture residential. When you look at the map, all of it around there is agricultural residential except for the Crestside Grill and a couple businesses. Old buildings that probably should be torn down. Think of it that way when you make a decision on whether or not this should be approved. I'm not for it and I'm not against it. And as God is my witness, He will decide what happens. So however it works out, it works out. But I want you to know, I don't want to change what we've become and what we've been able to do on our property. And I would ask you to consider that as if it was you, what would you do? Thank you.
Thank you. I can get the first word right. Chad Lambeth?
I'm the applicant, so
Oh,
I'll
okay.
until then.
Okay, hang on then.
Come on, man.
I mean, I can't.
And then
Come on here twice.
Benny Parrish.
My name is Benny Parrish. I live at 9 Crest Lane, not far from this property. My wife and I moved down to Thomaston, Georgia because of this ministry. I've spent 25 years in the corporate world in very high-profile jobs, running companies that had gross sales of over $100 million. And when my wife and I came down here and heard the word this ministry taught, she was healed of asthma. I know there's people in this room suffering with asthma. We learned how to be healed from it. There was an issue that had to be dealt with before the healing could occur. And I had really bad allergies. People out here say they have allergies. And we really want to help these people, but we can't force them to do anything. We offer a $469 program to anybody that lives in Upson County for $25. Our heart is to help people in this community. I've been a pastor for over 25 years. So I've had 50 years, 25 in the corporate world and 25 as a pastor. I've traveled all over the world preaching the kingdom of God to Kenya, Uganda, and Nigeria. All over this world, this ministry has sent me to do that. And it's been wonderful, my time here. We've been a resident now for 21 years, and I'm a Georgia-born native. Actually, we're Savannah, Georgia. I graduated from the University of Georgia in 1972, back before there were calculators. You guys, some of you remember those days. I'll tell you, it's not about money where we're at. When I moved down here, because I saw the healing that happened in both of our lives, I wanted to share that with other people, especially the people in this community. So when I moved down here, I took a 2/3 cut in pay just to be a part of what God was doing here. So this is not all about money. Certainly not for me, and I know the employees are the same way at the ministry. Who will benefit? Well, everybody that wants to come will benefit. We pay a lot of taxes in this county. We have 3 properties. 2 of them we pay property tax on. We pay motel $5 a night for everybody who stays in the motel. And let me clear up something. When Pastor Scott said we have had 40,000 people coming into this community, he's talking about over 30 years, not in 1 year. So this thing is getting blown out of proportion of what was said. And a lot of things we have facts on, and people come here, they state their opinion, but they don't have any facts behind their opinion. And that, bothers me a little bit. So I've got a whole list of things, but I'm going to shut it down because I could go on all night, but I won't. But I want to thank you guys for the heavy lifting that y'all done and the way you have developed Thomaston. You've done a fantastic job. I've seen such growth here and improvement in the county, and I thank you for it. It's a lot of heavy lifting. I remember Herschel Walker was asked one time, don't you get tired carrying a ball 35 times in a game? And his response was, that ball ain't that heavy. And I know that's what each of you were saying. That ball ain't that heavy. We can carry this county. We appreciate you. Thank you for your service to our community.
Thank you. All right. Okay, and so Chad, what's your last name?
Lambeth.
Okay, so you represent the engineering firm for this project?
That's correct.
Okay, so we decided to let you go last. I'll address that comment, so that you would have the opportunity that maybe during your presentation, if there was some of this stuff that you heard, you could address it rather than going first and then not addressing those issues. That's why we went last.
Yep.
I hope that makes sense. So, okay, with that, I know you got your 5 minutes to offer your presentation,
Yep.
and then we're going to close the public hearing, and then we'll have the staff report, and we'll probably have some other questions.
Sounds good. I'm Chad Lambeth, civil engineer for PEC. My address is 350 Research Court, Peachtree Corners, Georgia, 30092. As you heard here tonight, we are representing the Hope of Generation Church. We've worked with them for several months, worked with staff for several months with fine-tuning the site plan and getting to a point now to be able to present to you tonight. This first slide, I'm going to go down the slide. You've probably heard, you have heard a lot of what I'm going to say here, but I just already had this presentation built. So the outline in red, you see the site here. This kind of gives context to the surrounding area, what we are proposing and where we are situated in comparison to the existing Hope of Generation Church facilities to our south on Highway 74. that is part of this whole rezoning and the context and character of why this site makes the most sense for us. The Hope Inn is obviously at the corner of Fire Tower Road and Highway 74. You've got the Hope Farm on Pine Valley Road right around the corner. You've got, the Newcomer Academy. Everything is right here in this area. And so this slide is more just to give context, but we're trying to keep this in the same context of where they're already where they already live today. So the church is already there. This makes sense rather than relocating all the way to Thomaston when they already have multiple properties here. I'll go to the second slide. So we've been kind of going back and forth about stormwater concerns. That's been the major concern throughout this whole process. It was requested by Planning Commission, staff, and the neighbors, just to show you kind of how the topo sits. The high point of the property sits at the top of this page here. Everything kind of flows down, towards the creek to your west, which is where we'll situate our stormwater management facility. This is mostly just to kind of show you an idea of what the topo looks like. So I'll go to the next slide and I'll explain more about the stormwater management itself here in a minute. But just going through, this is a zoned AR, agricultural residential. We're looking to rezone to planned mixed-use development, PM. The property, it sits within the rural communities character area. As you know, the AR zoning is also a supported use as a house of worship within AR, just as it is in the PM zoning. It remains the same character area. Obviously, the AR would still require a special exception, come before you guys in similar process, but it's considered differently than a rezoning. So this PM zoning gives us more flexibility in what buffers are needed, and I think it's kind of modeled, the staff's zoning conditions are modeled after the AR zoning to an extent, but the PM zoning gives us some flexibility there. And again, as far as context within the Hope of Generation Church being here, the Hope Inn is to the Plan View West. You can see that there. I just show that just so you can see the context of the commercial up on the corner. This is obviously a rural community, but also at the same place, there's this commercial, and I think this property being rezoned to PM before it goes fully residential still makes sense from a transition standpoint, from your land use map. So I wanted to point that out. And then as far as just hitting on a couple of the site plan specific issues, you see the dashed lines around the perimeter of the property. We've got a 50-foot setback there, a building setback, and also a 100-foot undisturbed buffer. I think it's been taken for granted how much, what length of this church has gone to be able to provide that buffer. I've worked for tons of private developers. I've never seen someone offer a 100-foot undisturbed buffer around the perimeter of the property. So it just shows how much effort they're making to give these neighbors, the adequate buffer. I'll show you this landscape plan. It's gotten picked apart every single meeting so far, but it's more about, it's showing you guys what lengths the church is willing to go to be able to provide that buffering. We'll plant trees wherever there is scarce vegetation for those neighbors who are concerned and who are impacted by this the most. But I guarantee you, whoever came in to develop this next would not have, near as much undisturbed land and, vegetation and buffering from neighbors. So just wanted to mention that. As far as egress, I know traffic has been a major concern throughout this whole process. We have supporting data, kind of specifically, we didn't have time for a full traffic study, but we did it's a trip generation calculation. It tells exactly what a worst case would be. It's really conservative as far as modeling after a junior college to be able to, provide data. But it also, we've strategically placed these two accesses to alleviate the concerns for safety as far as, Pickard Road, we heard loud and clear. Our first hearing, we had our main access on Pickard Road. Sight distance is a concern. Traffic is way heavier right there. McCard Road is as everybody's mentioned, is not a heavily traveled road. It allows people to get out of the development and get to Highway 74 without major, if our access is on Highway 74, they're coming directly out onto 74, which is a major concern from a safety standpoint. So it allows them more transition. Obviously, we haven't gone through permitting, so the DOT has not told us what improvements will be needed along the frontage. but I do know that the church is more than willing to do whatever it takes to be able to, satisfy these concerns. And so that's two. The main access, obviously McCard. Secondary access would be on Pickard. We chose that location specifically for a right-in, right-out access because if you're sitting there, you're on the crest of the hill and you look to your left as you're making a right out of the development, you can see the full length of the road all the way down to your left. That's the only reason that location works, and you have to have adequate sight distance to do that. So we're not just throwing a location out there for no reason. Stormwater management has been a major concern. As I mentioned before, the state of Georgia has their blue book, Upton County has their regulations. We are required to capture all impervious areas, all disturbed areas. All of that stuff has to be captured. It's not like we're going to miss. We are forced to design our site from an engineering standpoint around that impervious and disturbance. And it's obviously a permitting concern, not a Board of Commissioners concern, but it is a legitimate concern from the neighbors. But we are required to reduce that flow rate before it leaves our site. So it's not like we're going to worsen the problem. At a minimum, we are meeting the existing condition, and the hope is to improve the situation by a substantial amount. So, that's all part of this permitting process, the downstream culverts, everything that's been a concern. We have to analyze all of that. And if it's under capacity, we have to, modify and upgrade it to be able to satisfy what we're doing.
Chairman, sorry.
Yep.
Are you going longer than the?
Got the 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, about 7.
Yep. So, that's high level.
We'll have some questions.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for comments. At this time, is there a motion to exit the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. Motion made and seconded. All in favor? So the public hearing portion is now closed. Mr. Courier.
Yes, sir. Just converting over to my presentation. All right, and certainly you can see in the staff report, a lot of the information that you've heard is in the staff report, so I'm going to try to avoid as much of that as I can. Certainly a lot of the graphics are going to be identical, which are traditionally at the end of the report. We have a separate property owner who is not here. You're hearing basically from a potential buyer. One of the minor changes that has come out through the hearing process is that you're familiar in your report, there's a house. Originally, that house was going to be part of the project. They have decided here towards this part of the development that house will not be part of this. So there's going to be 2 acres around that house, the house cut out, so that will remain AR. So just so that you've got the full picture, eliminate the house. There are some photos in the staff report, but that was a recent occurrence. So 2 acres will remain AR, so that will not be part of this process, so that'll remain AR in the house. And also just to clarify, because I had this question in the beginning, is the hotel, the Hope Inn, is not part of it. It's connected and it's adjacent to it, but it's not considered part of this rezoning. It is already Zone C2. Certainly they don't want to change that, so that's also a consideration. You've heard a lot about the Hope Inn. It's Zone C2, it's going to stay C2. It's adjacent to this project, but it's not part of the project. So the 2 holes we're cutting out will be that individual house. You'll see the photographs in your staff report. And the Hope Inn never was part of the project, but it is adjacent to it, Zone C2. The advantage in the discussion we had at the beginning, you heard a little bit of this, was stay in the AR and just ask for a church special exception, or go to the PM. And I think you just heard the biggest argument is that this is a unique project. The PM is designed for that. It's already in your zoning ordinance. It's nothing new. Upson County hasn't used it very often. The last time you used it was Hickory Ridge. You recall, your history here is longer than mine. That was the golf course residential community. That was a PM development. That's the last time that the county used PM. So really, there are only 2 projects that have ever gone to the PM. The advantage for this particular project is, number one, the diversity in terms of what they can do Obviously, the AR, the other ones are prescriptive. They have very specific requirements, setbacks, et cetera, that are the minimums. And also, it's the same process, whether they went through the special exception or this rezoning. It's the same number of hearings because it's a special exception. So they would have gone through the same process, but they would have the AR restrictions. So that's why we are at the place where we are. I certainly think as the county planner, this was the best way to go and the best consideration in terms of the rezoning. You've heard the uses, a sanctuary, a chapel, a ministry building, the cabins, cottages, whatever we want to call them, offices, and of course there will be outdoor recreation uses. They're not really facilities, but that's a type of use that they said would happen. The build-out would be in the 3 to 5 year range. I won't go through this in detail. This is what I just talked about, the fact that we have the zoning district PM. It's for specific reasons, for kind of different type of projects. And of course, there is a residential component to this in that there are 12 cabins. That's not a typical use that you see at most churches, is where you get that residential or the cabin type use. And so that would be another reason to say, well, maybe AR special exception, church or ministry location isn't the best option. Let's go with the PM. The acreage before you cut out the house is 51.69, so it's probably closer to around 49. The administration building, 12,000 square feet, 25,000 for the church, the ministry, or basically the classroom space, and whatever else they use it for, 38,000. And the 12 cabins, I had a question earlier about the size. The quote that's in their material is the 1,512 square feet for each one of those cabins. The literature also says that they'll sleep 6 to 8 members of the retreat or attendees at these retreats. Parking spaces are, you'll see, 414. 2 access points, Pickard Road and McCard Road. That has changed a little bit, the location, and 1 versus 2. So you're sort of seeing an evolution of the project over the last few months. As you heard, AR is the predominant zoning in the area. At the intersection of 74 and Fire Tower, you do have some C2. You'll see that in the zoning map when we get to that. As you know, the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners have criteria that state law requires you to have and use, as well as the Planning Commission. These are those criteria. So when you evaluate it, you need to look at the impacts based on these criteria, and staff has done that. There was, as you also heard, part of the reason why we had the number of meetings we did with the Planning Commission is there was not always the information in the submitted information in the application that we needed. So I'm not going to go through all this language. I'll hit some of the highlights, but what you see is a series of questions that when we get the original application was asked by myself and the Planning Commission, and the red is the responses, the information we got, not just at that first meeting, but sort of there was testimony given that answered some of these questions even in the last meeting that they had. So that's what this is. It's information that the Planning Commission I thought was necessary, but wasn't offered at that time in the application. So just hitting some of the highlights here, and some of the things maybe weren't touched on earlier. We were told that every month there's going to be 1 or 2 5-day retreats, and that's all 12 months of the year. Typical attendance at that first one is 50 to 60 people at the first retreat, 25 to 30 at the second one, although they certainly would like to see those numbers increase. Let's see, the conceptual plan. We wondered about the connection to the hotel. There's currently not any intent to make it a vehicular or at least a motorized vehicle connection. It might be maybe a golf cart path, or a pedestrian path. But while the 2 properties are connected, you don't see a vehicular connection. There's some physical reasons why that might be difficult or expensive and something that they would have to look at down the road. You heard also reference to trip analysis, transportation analysis. You see the numbers here. When traffic engineers and planners, the things that we look at first and the most is what's your AM and PM peak. That's when we need volume and what's going to happen in the morning rush hour and the evening. So those are the numbers you have here, and if Mr. Lambeth wants to describe these numbers a little bit more. But you'll see their estimate when they did that traffic analysis was approximately 251 morning trips and 308 trips. So that's whatever they defined as the AM and PM peak. So we're not going to have hundreds of trips going on all the time, but you may have this number at the peak. You know, people going to work and maybe the classes, and people leaving in the evening. And of course, this isn't weekend. This is just your typical AM and PM peak for the work week. Then you'll see in number 4, they did an estimate for the demand for potable water at 25,625 gallons. We didn't really get into the wastewater, but typically when you're planning for it, you just look at whatever the potable water demand was and sort of figure that the effluent or wastewater is going to be similar. Now, one of the discussions we had at length at the Planning Commission meetings was what we're discussing now is the planning level for this project, the overall land use, the big picture. There are going to be lots of, as we've heard referenced, there's going to be lots of permitting that's going to be required. You know, probably the closest this project that was nearby in time was Legacy Ranch. I believe it's taken 1.5 years for them to get their EPD permit for wastewater. So you probably can look at something like that for a project like this. So they're going to have to apply for that wastewater treatment. They're going to have to figure out with EPD what's it going to look like. That's not planning level stuff. That's permit level. We're at a higher level than that. Same thing with any driveways onto county roads or onto the 74 if that was to happen. That doesn't mean you don't think about it, but it's a detail that at this level, in this point in the project, we don't go into that. All right. All right, this is the staff analysis of the proposed use. Basically, we believe that a well-planned and maintained Hope of the Generation campus can be an asset to the county, countywide. That while we certainly look at the micro area and the immediate neighborhood, we also look at the county as a whole, and that's our job as the county planners, to look at the very specific as well as the very general. You have, as you heard, very significant perimeter setback and buffer areas that are unprecedented. If this were an AR special exception for a church, your code only requires a 50-foot buffer. So this is double what your code would require if it had stayed in the AR. Traffic is certainly going to be an issue. I get the scariest job. I get to post the signs out there for this 4 times. And yes, I'll tell you, it's scary, especially on Pickard Road, trying to put that sign out there. There's no shoulder. So that's just me posting signs 4 times in the last few months. These roads aren't perfect for a lot of purposes, but what roads are perfect in the county for any use that you would put it at? 74 is a major artery through the county, and this is really close to 74, and actually in a very small point touches it. Not that there's an access on 74 directly, but we do have 74 there. So I certainly do agree that traffic is a consideration that would certainly be helpful, and this is one of the questions we had about food service. Obviously, if you had no food, everybody's got to always leave, and that's additional trips during the day and on these local roads. But if they have food service on site, a cafeteria, and we were told that there will be full service food, that saves a lot of trips going out on the road for other times of the day, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, that don't have to. So to the maximum degree, we call this internal capture of trips. So if the more services they have inside of the campus, that limits the amount of traffic that's going to go out on the road. So those are all benefits to having a comprehensive design for the campus and doing multiple uses. In terms of the zoning, you've already heard me discuss. I think this is the best of the 2 alternatives for the zoning district. So the PM is the best district. And I think this is generally a positive use for the county as a whole. Going through those criteria that we've all got to use, again, effect on the adjacent nearby properties, as you've heard from the neighbors, this is the biggest issue, is what's it going to do to their neighborhood? They know what it is now. What's it going to be like? Are there going to be impacts? You put 1 house there, there are going to be impacts. You put 40 houses, there are going to be impacts. Again, in the city, you put a new grocery store, you put a new restaurant, there are going to be impacts. That happens. The land is to be developed. What it is a matter of how big an impact you allow as the planners for the county and the Board of Commissioners, and how we mitigate and how we address those. A lot of those impacts are going to be somewhat addressed and mitigated by that 100-foot buffer. Not all of them, but quite a few of them are going to help with a lot of it. If you look through the comprehensive plan, you've already talked about the character area. This is not contrary to anything or any of the policies that are in the comp plan. And in terms of a rural community, we don't have a strong definition of that, but there's no reason why a rural community can't have a significant church as part of that rural community, that could be part of the identity of it. We've got several of those identified in the comp plan. If at one time we want to do what we call local or regional plans, we can talk about those communities and name them. So I think that in terms of your comprehensive plan, there's nothing in this proposal that's contrary to that, or certainly to the character areas. There is a significant number of acres we've been told that will be cleared. We don't have an environmental assessment. That's not something we ask for or do, so I don't know if there are endangered species on the property. I don't know how many trees are potentially knocked down or what those things are. That's just something we don't have. But there will be a significant amount of the property cleared. Staff does recommend approval of this. Now, as you'll see, I've got extensive conditions. As Mr. Lambeth addressed, I basically took the AR zoning district and reformed it as appropriate for the PM. So there's basically the equivalent of 3 pages of zoning district, but it's unique. It's for this PM zoning district. It's things that apply for this. Obviously, when they come in for changes or want to add things or subtract things, I've got to know what fits into their unique PM district. And so that's why we've created the words here. Now, you've got correspondence, and I don't know if Chad wants to talk about these later. My conditions differ from his. If that's significant to them, you'll hear about it. If it's not, then you won't. They address in some ways the same thing, and others not so much. But they did, there's one page in the proposal that you've got in your packet where they talk about, it's 5 or 6 conditions they suggest. I certainly looked at them, but they're not totally encapsulated. Mine and mine are pretty different and certainly more comprehensive. I'm not going to go through all 3 pages of these. You can see one of the conditions is that they do have to abide by what, if you approve the project. I'm going to ask if you approve it tonight, that you approve the development plan that you've got before you, that you approve the statement of intent, which tells us what it is they're supposed to be doing, and then you would adopt and approve my recommended conditions. Obviously, if you're going to deny the project, none of that matters. But if you're going to approve it, we'll need those 3 things approved. Again, this is these conditions, which I'm not going to go through. All right, the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission certainly earned their pay and appreciation from the public. They had 3 meetings to discuss this, lots of input and consideration and lots of time put in. The vote was recommended of denial by 3 to 1. One of the members recused themselves. The reasons for denial during the meeting were stated as 1, unknown wastewater impacts and mitigation, 2, traffic concerns, 3, insufficient information related to the outdoor activities, 4, the inconsistency of the proposal with the rural character of the area, and 5, the property generally, they felt the wrong location. You've seen these graphics. I will not repeat them unless you want to go back through them. This is the aerial from the tax assessor's website. It's a little closer than the other aerial you saw. Here's the zoning map. It's the first time you've seen this. You will see it's surrounded by AR, but here's the C2. You've got the Hope Inn here. You've got Crestside Grill over here, and then what I call miscellaneous C2 in this area across the street. Obviously, it's not active commercial. The building in the front is actually pretty derelict, but that entire parcel is actually C2. Ms. Lambeth didn't have to go through that. There's the rendering of the cabin. This is the house that's no longer part of the project. This is a manufactured home that is on the project that'll have to be cleared away. This is the Hope Inn. Press Side Grill, which is right across the street, both again Zone C2. And this is the miscellaneous commercial Zone C2. And that concludes the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So I guess as you indicated, you have the staff's recommendation, a list of conditions, and you just said there were several of those conditions that, Mr. Lambert, you guys have alternatives, or you have heartburn with some of this?
No, we recommended our conditions before staff report came out, so we're kind of trying to work together to see a combination of the two, if we can, I don't think we're opposed to any of those conditions, and we'll abide by, the staff recommendations.
Gentlemen, I guess probably the best thing to do is, this is such a big thing, scope. And we've heard from so many questions before I call for a motion.
I just have a question, I guess staff, but maybe you can answer this. So the 2 acres in the house is being cut out. Is that going to be part of the church's property? Is it property remaining?
They'll still own the home, and it will be renovated and potentially used, as a where the guests stay, but it's nothing. Yeah, it'll just be similar to what the cabins offer, but
right.
If they choose to sell it later, it would still have that opportunity.
It's just not subject to the PM. It's not being rezoned as the other properties been requested.
And I'd just like to share with my counterparts to make sure that we stay on track here and don't get lost in the weeds like it's happened before. We're deciding a land use issue, water runoff, building permits. That's not within our purview. There's people that handle the departments to handle that. We're simply deciding, does this fit there at this location? So I'm sure y'all remember that, but I think that needs to be said.
Any other questions?
I have a couple questions for the engineer. I'm a developer, so I understand that you're not going to have a full civil design at this stage. But do you have any phase 1 geotech reports on the site?
On that question, if you have any due diligence, like a phase 1 or geotech report? I don't think so. We were basically trying to abide by whatever the requirement to submit for zoning. Obviously, a lot of that stuff, a lot of the concerns from the community will be addressed during permitting, but similarly, no, there's nothing that I'm aware of at this point.
All right, and also have y'all considered any off-site improvements to maybe some of the surrounding roads?
We would obviously abide by whatever the DOT suggests and recommends, but I don't think you would have any opposition to, making it a safer street for what they're proposing. And I'm assuming they will have, frontage improvements that they will be bound by.
And Mr. Chairman, both of these accesses are on county road. There's no new access on state road.
And my next question is on the county road there. So I see there's a right turn only when exiting from the far side of the property. But from McCord Road, is that a right turn only?
No, that would be full access, and where it's located on the curve kind of gives you that line of sight both directions. So it would be strategically to satisfy sight distance issues. And same with Pickard, I'm sorry.
Have y'all considered going straight to 74?
We have. So the issue there is the decel lane, length of the decel lane that would be required by GDOT doesn't offer enough room. And then obviously the creek is just to the north of that. So we would be squeezed between McCard Road and that creek, basically. So that was, we did run an exercise to see if that was feasible. And then obviously also safety concerns coming on McCard Road and having a proper, stop if there's improvements they require from us, then that would be, the safer option as well.
So to go back, to make sure you're understanding me and I'm understanding you, so when you come out of the facility and you reach McCar Road, you can turn left or right on McCar.
That's correct.
Thought that, okay.
Coming out of McCard, coming out onto McCard Road is a right out, driving all the traffic, not up to the Jackson's place or up that side, brings everything to that 74 axis. That way it keeps everything as close to the 74 axis as humanly possible.
When they're leaving. No, when they're coming, everyone will come from our end. Yeah, but you give him time to talk. I live there.
I understand. Okay. I heard mentioned, from several of the adjacent property owners, there's a lot of ponds out there. I mean, obviously, there's a lot going down in there. So, and I know it's not within our scope for the most part to talk about erosion control and things like that. But
that is a legitimate concern. So
yeah.
And I think as far as erosion control in the temporary time of construction, being near streams, impaired streams require different safety measures, erosion control measures than what a standard property would. So if it's, more silt fence, there's different diversions that can be made. I mean, we have to abide by the state regulation, which is GSWCC in this case. So that, as well as the permanent stormwater issues, obviously the environmental side of it has to be vetted as well. And that has to be approved during permitting. We're not going to be able to develop the property if the soils don't perk for a septic tank, or if our stormwater is not picking up adequate areas. So we have to abide by state and local codes to be able to make that happen.
So
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
All right, so if it fails.
Yep. And it does often. I mean,
that's right, and I understand that. Then what are they going to do?
The inspector would come out.
I'm talking about what's the church going to do with it?
In the temporary during construction, or in a permanent situation?
In permanent.
Or in the final. There are maintenance agreements for stormwater, so we have to abide by those maintenance agreements with the county. So we will, if the pond fails, they're
No. I'm talking about septic.
Oh yeah, same thing. Distance from water bodies, distance from property lines, septic, all these things they're very strict guidelines. The percolation rates for the soils, all that stuff has to be.
I understand that, but you still ain't answered the question. If it fails, and they can't put a septic system in, what are they going to do with it?
They wouldn't be able to develop the property. If the soils don't perk, or if the septic fails, they'd have to rebuild it. There's no alternative.
So I think the answer is they don't know. They're moving forward on this project, just like I'm getting a look from Pastor Harper back there. It would be a game changer, obviously, for this project if it didn't perk. Like Mr. Currier mentioned earlier, the project out there at the Legacy Ranch. That was at least a year and a half in the permitting, and they just got it, and nothing's happened out there yet. My concern is, and I want to say this, not knowing which way this is going to go just yet, looking at Pastor Harper there, because, you own this, is from my perspective. And we've had conversations, and protecting your neighbor's property. We've seen developments in this community, and it hadn't been that long ago that we had a wetland that was pretty much decimated from failed erosion control measures. We didn't have anything to do with it. It wasn't on us. It's the state and all that other stuff. But I would hope that as this goes, and those are put out there, that some highly competent people are watching that to make sure those hold up. Because if it doesn't, then it's going to be on you. It's going to be on you, and your neighbors are going to be seeing you in another forum, seeking damages for silting up their pond or stuff like that. So it is a risk that but it mainly is a huge investment in this development. that you guys have got to make sure that happens, if this happens.
I have a question. At what stage of this process would the test begin?
So that would start as soon as zoning is over. We would have to get the soil testing done. They do a phase 3 soil testing across the entire property, and specifically where the septic tanks would go. You have to have, they basically make a grid over the footprint of your septic and determine whether the soils are adequate or if they have to have alternative measures to provide that. There's different types of septic systems for different types of soils, but ultimately we have to follow state legislation, regulation, and we also, if it were to fail, also have to, there's a state requirement to bring it back up to code. So we have a lot of things in place. Same with the permitting. A year and a half of permitting is to vet all those things out.
So the and to what Commissioner Ellington said earlier, and he's, you're right, but I'm going to ask a kind of off the wall question here. The purchase of the property is contingent on the zoning. It's not contingent on the septic system being permitted. So if this is approved, you're going to go forward with the purchase. Okay, so then you own it once it's, okay. All right. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. If there are no other questions, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. Probably won't be a popular motion, but I'd like to.
They never are.
Somebody's going to leave unhappy tonight, regardless. But I'd like to make a motion we approve with the conditions and the
Staff recommendation.
yeah, staff recommendation conditions and the statement of
Intent.
And the master plan.
And I would like to add to those conditions that we got 72 months to complete the project. And that we totally complete, and that anything above and beyond that's going to be on this site, the process starts over. And if the site fails perk test, anything that will stop the process of this moving forward, it will revert back to AR.
Is there a second?
Mr. English, we'll have to get there's an issue,
Well,
what we call reversion clause.
Let me get my second. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, I have a motion made and seconded. Now to your point.
Mr. Chairman, the
I-
legality of a reversion clause is questionable. I would ask that we get a legal interpretation about that. The issues with reversion clauses are, one, you're binding a future Board of Commissioners with an action, and two, you're not following the proper process for amending zoning. So that's why reversion clauses in your ordinance are improper. But this would have to be the attorney's.
That's right. That's why I had to get my second so that we could have this discussion.
Apology.
No apology necessary. That's why you do your job. And you do it very well. All right. So to staff's point there, how do you handle that? Your motion?
Well, I mean, and the reason I say that is because basically, if it's not suitable for development of that size, then it's not going to be suitable for development. Then it's going to need to revert back to agricultural use for use, or it's going to come back to a future board to say, hey, this property can't be developed because it won't perk. And get it turned back. Somebody's going to have to go through that process to get that back.
I know this is coming out of left field, so it's not like one that you can just look up your shirt sleeve and pull out. I'm sure. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I really need to understand too, just so I know exactly what you're looking for. When you say revert back, you mean
zoning.
Well, yeah.
But not for the right now, the existing structures.
There's nothing there.
No, there's nothing there.
Well,
The
They
zoning,
can't do
I'm
anything.
only talking about the zoning issue, the
Right.
part of it. I'm only talking about the zoning.
'Cause-
It's currently AR, we're gonna change it to plan development if it gets approved. And then if for some reason that it isn't developed, that it changes back to AR. If it's not developable, so that in the future, somebody doesn't come along and stick something in PR that we really don't want there. It just absolutely is not a fit.
Well, what if we did it this way, maybe this way?
I'm open, I'm just saying, I'm just trying.
Rather than saying it would revert back, that the zoning is approved only for, if that's what you want to do, for this project.
Okay, yeah, that's all.
Then it's not reverting back, it's only approved for this.
Right.
That's
So
what I was gonna suggest, but Doug, do you see an issue with that?
So I'd like to amend my motion to, say all that again.
I'm going to say everything you said, I'm just trying to get that last part.
We done heard a lot,
So it would have all those things that staff recommended, but it would be
Approve that project.
approved only for
That project.
this project. And what about the other thing you mentioned 72 months.
Right. The total build out. That project got to be completed within 72 months.
So what happens if it doesn't?
Anything that's not built within 72 months, they got to come back to the process.
But it's on PM.
That's right, but still, they got, in order to receive a permit to go forward, they got to come back here and start over.
So after 72 more months, what you're saying is no building permits, no permits will be issued
Right.
relative to
That's
this.
Right.
Is there a problem with that?
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay. Says it gives you the option. I mean, 72 months, that's 6 years from now.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot can happen. A lot's happened in our country in the last 3.5 years, but I won't go there. But, okay. All right, so to try to get this nailed down, so I have a motion to approve, based on staff's recommendation, with the conditions shown, to approve, approve the intent statement, approving the master plan, and the third piece was the conditions.
The staff.
To be completed within 72 months for this project only. You got that?
As presented.
All right. Miss Jessica's the one's going to have to write all that down, so I know it's a great thing about being recorded.
You can look back on YouTube.
Okay. So that is the motion that has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Ms. Jones.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay. I know what's about to happen. We've been sitting here now for almost 2 hours, and it's going to be a mass exodus, because we do have another public hearing, and a lot of those folks are waiting outside. So, if you would, as expeditiously and as quietly as you could, I'll give you a few minutes to leave, and we'll get the other folks in. Thank you. As expeditiously and as quietly as you can. Where's my army guy? You got him. Settle down. Get him out.
I obviously had plenty of time to contemplate it. I didn't know that guy.
I can't remember.
Okay.
Need a time for a potty break?
No, we'll grind it out. Okay. Come see us again sometime. All right. Just ask them to be quiet out there, please.
I will.
Thank you. If you need backup, I'll get a sailor out there.
Excuse me, everybody, they're asking if you have any conversations that you take it outside, we still have another meeting, and y'all conversations are bleeding.
If there's anybody out there for the next public hearing, they need to come on in.
Come into this meeting, please come in, so they can expeditiously get this over. If not, please respectfully go to your.
He needs to be commissioner.
He's hired.
Get the deputy.
I second
Okay. I'm sure the next group can come in quietly.
They're still in.
All right, gentlemen. Next item for your consideration tonight is we have a public hearing. It's rezoning REZ 2024 TAC 04. The Storehouse Church, represented by trustee Scott Knight, registered agent Lillian J. Morgan, both of Yatesville, Georgia, has requested that Upson County rezone 5 acres more or less at 2585 US Highway 19 from AR to M1 manufacturing light for relocation of a local HVAC company. The property is currently owned by the Storehouse Church, Inc. of Yatesville, Georgia. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor, open the public hearing. There, that was okay. You got that? Public hearing is now open. Okay, for the new folks in the room, public hearing is open. When I call your name, you would please come up. There's a couple spots marked on the floor up here. State your name and your address for the record, and please address your comments to the board through the chair. And you'll see the 5-minute clock up there. We'll let you know when your time is up. So with that, Mr. Murphy, Tony Murphy.
Chairman, board members, my name is Tony Murphy. I live at 52 Howard Road in Thomaston, Georgia. I've been a resident there for 21 years now. And I'm here tonight representing myself, my family, and all the other families on Howard Road. All of them signed a petition to reject this proposal to change the zoning to M1. I was born and raised in Upson County. I was born here in 1945. I've been here a long time. And I finally found a place after the years that I saved my money and I built me a home out there. It's not a house, it's a home. And now the first time since I've been out there, something's come along that changes all that. It's going to change it. Nobody thinks it will, but it will. I attended the last commission meeting, and I was the only one there representing our community out there. Mr. Facilities gave his 5 minutes presentation, and after he was allowed to do that, I gave mine. And all the members of the board listened to what we had to say. The chair lady said she had concerns about the M3 zoning, and she voiced those opinions. All the other board members, they had concerns about the thing that Alicia had concerns about it being spot zoning, and the other person said that it was not consistent with the character of the community out there, and it's not. They said that there was on the presentation they had on the board, there's several locations in Upson County where M1 zoning is already there. Both Highway 36, east and west, 74th, east and west, and 19 south. The county property out there, and the industrial site, places like that, there's perfect places for a business like this to go. Because putting it out there is not going to benefit Upson County one bit. It's going to benefit the business. I can understand wanting to do that, but it's not right for the area. I got 3 things to say about the reasons why not. Mr. Curry at the meeting had remarks that he requested that the zoning, it said that the zoning was inconsistent with the character of the area. I checked with the state, and they said that the turning lane for that one position out there didn't look like it was going to happen anytime in the near future because of the economy and everything else. It wasn't going to happen. big trucks, tractors, and all that stuff are gonna be turning in there. 25 company vans, and even more of that, the customers, all the people that work there. Gonna be a lot of traffic in and out of Harold Road, right on the road, because there's gonna be a turning. That's gonna damage the road there, coming off 19 and Harold Road, and the road turning into to the property there. At the same time, that intersection with all these trucks coming in there, because Thomason's got a lot of traffic on that road right there. There's gonna be an accident there with all the big trucks, tractors, and vans and stuff moving out. There'll be a lot more traffic coming out of that road in addition to the traffic that always comes down the road. The noise level out there is going to increase with all the noise with the tractors, the trucks, and the trash dumpsters and all that stuff. I live 200 feet, my property line is about 200 feet from that place. The little 0.7 tenths of a mile road that we got there, it's always been a peaceful, good place to live. And all the residents out there want to keep it that way. Upson County needs some quiet land, some family land, a little strip of road 7/10 of a mile long. It needs to stay the way it is. It's got a character about it. The people living there are character people. They're all good people. They worked hard all their lives to have what they have. I learned also at the last meeting that rezone this place would constitute spot zoning. And the chairman of that meeting said that spot zoning was not good, that it would it's not right for Upson County at this time. Maybe somewhere down the line it might be something we need to do, but it's not right for this piece of land and not good now. I had pictures that I gave to the chairman, Mr. Allen, about we have a significant amount of runoff from the place. Nobody sees it. The people that own the church now never come over when it's raining. And nobody out there ever complained about the church having water come down the road. I clean my own culverts out, clean up in front of my house to keep it from stopping up. The place has got a big building there.
Sir, I'm sorry, but that's your time.
Sorry about that.
No, I'm sorry.
Anyway, I submitted the pictures to you.
Yes, sir, we got them, and I've shared them. Thank you. All right, lost my place here. Mr. Basilisi.
My name's Donnie Basilisi. I'm the owner and president of A&D Heating and Cooling Company. I spotted this property almost right across the road from my place.
Well, your address for the record.
Yeah, 2678 Highway 19 North. I also own 2710 Highway 19 North. So all these people are my neighbors. I went to all my neighbors, excuse me, I went to all my neighbors around there that joins that property or on the side of that property. I talked to every one of them, excuse me, I talked to every one of them, told them exactly what I plan to do, how I was going to do it, and everybody was fine with it. Not a single one that had an issue with it. Now, I understand that one of them come back a little bit later on and had an issue about the water thing, but I want to address his water issue if I've got just a minute. But as far as that detention pond that's in front of that place, I went out there Saturday. It rained 3.5 inches, and the pool was at maybe 30%. And I got pictures if anybody wants to see them. But like I say, it wasn't even 30%. I got pictures also in there, the ditches and runoff. We had 3.5 inches in 1 hour, and that pool was not even, like I say, at 30%. I went back 24 hours later because that's the way they rate those pools in a certain length of time, how much they decrease. It was down to about 6 inches, excuse me, from 18 inches. So that's about the current rate you're going to get. There was no water coming on that spillway. If you look through there, there was no water coming out, and there was no leaves, limbs. There's nothing that can come off of that property right there, where that piece of property in the road right there. There's no trees right there. There's nothing that may come in about trees and limbs. There's nothing there. But excuse me, but you can look at the pictures and see the retention pond is doing just what it's supposed to do. It was designed for a retention pond. It was designed for a parking lot. The parking lot is not going to cover the entire green space out there, just some of it, to park our vehicles and trucks and cars coming in and out. But the retention pond was made for a parking lot. It was set up for a parking lot. So I brought the plans, it's got the engineering and all that stuff on it. The Scanlon engineering, I brought that with me just in case you wanted to see, but it was designed and it was built for a parking lot. So I didn't see any issues. I didn't see any water. I didn't see any floods. You know, like I say, I was over there and had 3.5 inches of water. We're going to make some minor modifications to the building. We're going to build out on the front where there's a front facade and a driveway, a car park area there. And we're going to put some roll-up doors on either end of it. But that's really all the changes that we're making in the building. Got minor structures. I didn't know if y'all had the drawings of the changes we were going to make to the building, but it's a beautiful building. We want to keep it that way. So if you can look at my place right down the street there, you can see how I keep it. And when I bought that property next day, I had all those greenhouses. I cleaned all that up. I can assure you my wife is not going to let that place go down. I think we'll be an asset for the community, and I think it'll be good for us in the community, because I've been trying for several years to find me a place where I had more land. I'm about 3/4 of an acre now. I got people on top of people. It's prohibited my growth. I can do more business. I can work more people. I can do more if I can get out there where I got more space and more room. And that's about all I got.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Scott Knight.
My name's Scott Knight. My mother is the owner of the Storehouse Church. My father, Buzzy Morgan, is who supplied all the money that built the Storehouse Church.
Your address for your record.
I live at 1188 Forsyth Yatesville Road, Yatesville, Georgia.
Yes, sir.
My dad, for some reason or another, always, when he bought that property with the ideas of, building a building there someday, we had it for a long time. And then he built the building. He didn't raise money. He built the building himself. And from the time the building was built until now, and him when he was alive, and since he's passed away, my mother has looked after that building. They never took a salary when it was a church. They've always bore the burden. Mr. Murphy has been there 21 years, and this is the first time we've heard of any kind of water problem. 21 years is a long time not to complain about a problem that, that evidently seems to be an ongoing problem that he's had for a long time, but it only came up when this came up. I understand nobody likes change. I don't like to get older, but that's part of it. Change is, that's life. Everything changes, Perch Pool ain't what it was when I was a kid, The skating ring ain't where it used to be. I wish it was. When those songs come on, I love them. But change is part of what happens. That's part of everything. If you know any of the Basilicys, if you ride by their house, it's a challenge for me to keep my place looking like their place looks. I went to their business today. I've never been by, I was born in Upson County. I've never been by their place. But I left the sale barn today to go by their place to take a look at it, their business. When you pull up, you couldn't ask for anything to be any neater, any cleaner, and any more professional. I own an apartment complex in Lamar County. They do my heating and air. I call, they give me a schedule. A technician calls me and sends me a text when they get there. They call me and send me a text when I leave. Everything these guys do is a professional job. And I just ask you guys this retention pond is, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Never has been anything wrong with it. I cut the grass over there for probably the first 20 years we owned the property, and we've never had a water issue whatsoever. There's only 2 oak trees on the whole 3 acres out front. There's 3 acres out front and 2 acres in the back. There's 1 oak tree up right by the stop sign, not too far, and there's 1 at the other entrance. That's the only 2 trees that could possibly have any debris, and there's absolutely no way. We've accomplished a lot in all the years as we grow, but we've never made water run uphill. Water's gonna run downhill, and it does what it does. But I thank you for your time.
Sure, thank you. Mr. Rusty Blackston.
Good evening, Chairman and the Board. Rusty Blackston, 387 Fambro Road, Big Rock, Georgia. First, let me state I have no interest or connection with A&B Heating and Cooling. They have been a family friend for 40-some-odd years. My understanding is the zoning out there that they're pushing is to be an M-class zoning, manufacturing. And from Mr. Curry's statements and what he's shown or will show, that this is due to a plumbing shop. It requires it to be an M manufacturing type zoning.
Comments to the board.
Manufacturing type zoning, from my understanding. First of all, A&B doesn't manufacture anything. They don't make toilets, they don't make tubs, they don't make faucets, PVC pipe fitting. They supply a service just like any other plumber does here in Upton County. So why would they be required to have a manufacturing zoning when it's basically just commercial? These people have been here all their life. They employ 35 to 40 full-time service technicians, sometimes additional 15 more at any day, just to take care of the business they have here. There are millions, not just one, but millions of dollars go through this company every year that Upton County is reaping the tax benefits off of. They have been good stewards. They were born here. They raised here. I've watched him raise his son. I'm watching his son raise his son now, which has got one of the best fastballs in the southeast you'll probably play. But as far as them making the community look bad out there, Thomaston Garden Club could learn something from their home. The way they keep it, it's immaculate, it's beautiful. He's cleaned up property next door to them. They've run into obstacles everywhere they went. And when I say county, I'm just going to include all arteries of county government. They've been shut down at the IDA at the industrial park. They offered them a few acres, but the lay of the land, they could not afford to get it to where they could even get a building permit for less than maybe $500,000. The IDA said, no, we can't let you out there because you are not a manufacturer. And that's what's required to be an industrial park now, I understand. So the IDA has said, you're not a manufacturer, but yet for him to get the zoning out there, they want to put him under manufacturing zoning. So something needs to be cleaned up in ordinance with the zoning somewhere. The plumbing shop is what's caused to be thrown into that. They're not a plumbing shop. They just provide a service, unless Mr. Curry can prove me wrong. I think they've been good stewards of the property. They've been good citizens of the community. He served on boards. He worked with this community. And I think it would just be the best. And I understand Mr. Murphy's situation. I can understand maybe it's not wanted out there. But things change. And all he's asking for is a place. He had 2 or 3 other opportunities and been shut down by arteries of the county government trying to locate. We've already lost one good company that's been here for 50 years. Thomas the Milk Company has gone to Pike County because they couldn't find a place to build that would suit the county. When I say county, I mean different arteries of the county. They shut down Mr. McElroy, was going to build a hotel up on 19 North, who'd already had his plans, site prep done, a $40,000 Holiday Inn Express franchise. And the day when they're going to close the plans out here, oh no, we're not going to do that. We got somebody else who wants to build a hotel. Mr. Basilski's been shut down 3 or 4 times where he's tried to go. I wouldn't blame the man if he packed up and left Upton County. If I was in his place, I'd be frustrated and leave. But I'm asking you to cooperate with him and give him a permit to get up there, to build his business and let him better serve the community. Thank you for your time. I've had my say. You got your decision.
Okay, Mr. Steve Sappin.
Morning, Chairman. How you guys doing this evening? I want to make sure that my comments that I talk about are not a reflection of Mr. Facility.
Name and address.
I'm sorry, Steve Sapp. I thought you said that. And
Got me a sleep switch.
1060 Larrabee Drive. My property is basically across 19, the Ventuca property. I've been here before. You know my property is adjacent to the storehouse, the storage buildings out there. Again, my comments are not anything in reflection on this facility or his business. What I know, he runs a very good business here in town. And again, my comments are not really for or against. It's more just concerns I have about that area and if this particular zoning goes through. My property, again, is located next to a commercial property. I was here talking about that and voiced my concerns on that. There was basically just one condition on that property. And unfortunately, the property owner has decided to just ignore the citations that he has tried to be presented to him to fulfill his commitment to that property. This is that commercial property storage building next to me. Out of respect, I will not mention his name. But anyway, this is kind of where my comments are coming from. And the M1 zoning for this particular area is strictly a spot zone. Everything around this particular zone is agricultural or residential. So you have to decide as a board, is this what you want to do, spot zone for in these areas? It does not fit. This is in your comprehensive plan that you passed. It does not fit your comprehensive plan. That is a plan. You can't pull that plan out and point to it and put it back in your pocket and say we're not going to point to it. It becomes less of a plan and more just a suggestion. So this is a plan this board passed, and it's not in the comprehensive plan. There's not an M1 in that particular area that I could find around. I didn't speak with Mr. Curry, but I'm sure he could probably tell you where the closest one is. And it's just not consistent with the area. And unfortunately, Mr. Basili's business falls under that category. There's nothing we can do about that. I mean, this is just where we're at as far as the process. But I do suggest, and I will strongly say suggest, I'm not saying you need to, but if you do decide to go this route, conditions need to be put on this property. You need to protect the surrounding properties. The surrounding properties are residential. I know there was a lot of talk about the facilities and what they will do with their property. There's people that have their properties residential that are proud of their houses and they look good too. You know, my property, that was one of the concerns I had, was the maintenance of the trees around the property that's adjacent to mine. They're not being maintained. Luckily, I've got a condition in place that I can fall back on. Now, this particular property owner may decide to disregard his responsibilities, but I have something to fall back on that I can actually, go to the zoning board and say, hey, we need to do something about this, which Mr. Curry has, give him credit on that. Two concerns was mentioned was the retention pond. I can tell you that once you pave that, the amount of water that's going to be in that retention pond is going to dramatically increase. I know firsthand about that because, again, the property owner that put the buildings in, he presented just semi-permeable membrane to put down. He went back and put asphalt, went in the plan, called Mr. Curry about that, and before we could get anything done, asphalt was done. I can tell you there's an enormous amount of water that comes off that property, onto my property and my mom's property, and that's a subdivision. Those are lots out there. I've got we own 6 lots. I've got 2 lots that I cannot use because of the water coming off the commercial property onto residential. So that's a concern, the amount of water that may be coming off, and it's going to increase if you pay that area. Property boundaries, I'm sure you'll see a picture, but all the property boundaries are basically residential. There is a property in the back that I think they're probably going to clear off and store maybe his units he takes out, but all the property boundaries is provided by the residential neighbors. There's no boundaries, so there's no tree lines or anything provided by the M1 property that goes into effect. So I would strongly suggest you put conditions on that. Maybe a 10-foot green space that has, live scaping on it, a fence, opaque fencing, not just fencing, opaque fencing. You have to protect the property owners that he's going to be adjacent to. In conclusion, it comes down to M1 zoning. This is what the main factor is, M1 zoning for that area. Does it fit? It does not fit. If it doesn't, and I'll state it again, it does not fit into a comprehensive plan that you approved. So again, I do feel kind of bad for Mr. Basilis. He's been trying to find a spot and a place, and I understand the frustration he's probably going through. But at the same time, you've got to protect the property owners that's already there. They've been there probably decades. I've been at my place over 50 years. So again, I thank you for your time. I'll take another time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, that's, there's no one else. I think we're good.
Make sure
Yeah. All right. With that, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, close public hearing. All in favor? Public hearing is now closed. Mr. Courier.
Yes, sir. On the very first page of the staff report, you'll see the M1 zoning permits plumbing shop, other contractor dash including open storage of materials when located in the rear yard. As a zoning administrator, is my interpretation that other contractor would equal anybody that is equivalent to a plumbing shop, which would be HVAC, it could be electrical, it could be any of those. Obviously, if the Board of Commissioners would want to change that and move these around, that could be done. But in terms of where this would fit into the zoning scheme, as I understand it, this business qualifies as a plumbing shop, comma, other contractor, including open storage of materials when located in the rear yard. And as a side note, if the request had been for C2, my recommendation would have been any different. I can't speak for the Planning Commission. This is 5 acres. The building that has been discussed is a little over 7,000 square feet. About half of the property is heavily wooded, as you'll see in your staff report. It's sort of a figure 8 piece of property, part heavily wooded and sort of invisible, and the rest is open and developed. This property would also be subject to the Gateway Corridor overlay zoning. AR is the predominant zoning in the area. You also have C2 across the street. That's where those mini warehouses are. And of course, with the residential, there's R2. This is the description of the character of the AR and the M1. Then discussing the comp plan, this discusses what the purpose of the comp plan is and how it's to be interpreted. The character area for this area is active agriculture. Basically, this part of the county has that as the character area. And there are pertinent goals and strategies. As I've discussed in the past, sometimes goals and strategies can oppose each other, and you can interpret one and it's in the same project and favorable, but you look at another strategy and it opposes it. But these are the ones that for the comp plan I think apply. We have the same review standards here that you talked about in the last zoning request. The staff analysis is that this is a sparsely developed area with very low density residential, and the limited amount of commercial that's in this area are the mini warehouses that are across the street, not immediately across the street, but to the southeast. The primary commercial area in this area is on US 19, but it's at Atwater Road. That's sort of the limit, and that's a mile away. So if you look at the significant commercial, whether it's heavy commercial or a light industrial, it's a mile away. This is not an appropriate location. It is a strip commercialization, sort of a spot zone in a particular area that's just not developed at this time to that extent. And as was referenced, there are other industrial areas that could be looked at. Again, I described earlier the contractor use and how this applies in that particular case. Then we go through the particular analysis of the criteria that you have. Again, this is this is the effect on the adjacent and nearby properties. This is a very little developed, it's very residential, very low density. They're not even densely packed or close to each other. This is just out of character for the area. The land use plan, of course, is the comp plan and says the same thing. The staff recommendation is for denial from AR to the M1. Reasons are that it's not consistent with the character area from the comp plan in this area. I don't think we want to start establishing a strict commercialization of this part of 19 now. It's generally a bad idea anywhere, but certainly here. And there's no plan that says we're going to begin a commercial node at this location, the intersection of Arrow Road and US 19. The proposal, therefore, is inconsistent with your two review standards, 1 and 4. The Planning Commission also studied this at their last meeting. Their vote was for denial by a vote of 4 to 1. The reference that they had for voting that way was the M1 type is a spot zoning in this location. It's not a good fit for the location, and the location is not consistent with the character area or the comprehensive plan. All right, here's the aerial photograph. Of course, you can see the building and then the heavily wooded portion of it, which would be cleared. All right, this is the zoning in the area. You can see AR on this side of 19 and across the street. The R2 is a little to the southeast, as is the commercial in front of the subdivision. All right, this is the plan I think Mr. Basility was talking about. You'll see the yellow area where it would be cleared, and I'm not exactly sure what uses would go back there. And then you can see around the building, it's hard to read, but I believe that the blue area is a less dense paving. I guess the trucks wouldn't go there. That might be the reason for it. And then the green area would be more heavily paved. Again, he can probably better describe it to you. These are the photographs. This is the south side of the building. The retention area, which you'll see better pictures of, is to the left. And this is that south side view looking at 19. All right, this is the best picture probably of the retention area. It's not a conventional pond really, it's very flat. You can see the berm that goes along the back here, which is the west side of the property, and then to the extreme north end. So this is a low area. Obviously, it was constructed this way to be the retention that you've heard discussed in the testimony during the public hearing. Here's the pop-off that's in the corner. This is on the southwest corner of the property. And there's where the water would come out. The testimony during the public hearing said that when that does pop off, this area here where you can see that there's the ditching along the road floods quite a bit. So that was the testimony we received. This is that area along Harold Road which leads to the west. Back side of the building. It's the north side. This is from the front of the property looking north of 19. You can see the type of development and the homes that are across the street to the northeast. This is immediately across the street. And this is looking to the southeast. You can see the homes, and then in the far end there you can see the mini warehouses, the roofs of those. And that concludes the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, could you go back to the top, the map?
Yes, sir.
The
Zoning map?
The
development map? Sure.
Yeah. Just so we got something to reference. All right, no, that was it. Go back one, right there. Thank you. All right. You have a site plan? I mean, is there any site development plan? I mean, so anything talking about fencing or anything like this? This is kind of your concept right here, what we're looking at.
Yes, well, we're going to put some mention was made about, stuff, store, run, building, whatever. Everything is going to go back in that yellowed out spot up there. You will have the equipment, tractors, equipment, all that stuff will be in that back yellow area.
Any pole barns or anything back there?
A small pole barn, and there will be a tree. You can see where we left all the trees and all the stuff all around it. We do have a green area all the way around it. We're only going to take about an acre of that. There's going to be a small pole barn there to back the tractors under. And we do have trash. So you can tell you we don't. Well, the dumpster will be back there, and where we turn the buildings and whatever else, that middle is storage and equipment. And then we have a company that comes in anywhere from every 2 to 3 weeks and completely cleans it out. You can go by my building there, and you can look behind my building, and you'll see it's all cleaned out. That's where all the clutter's going to go, in the very back there. You won't see anything up front.
Okay.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Facility, you don't happen to know any distances between where the property line is in the development area and this cleared yellow area in the back, do you? You wouldn't know what that's, Obviously we have setbacks, but do you know what that setback would be? Would that be our, what's it, 35 foot? 25 foot?
That would be for structures, there would be any pole barn would be an accessory structure, it's only required to be 5 feet from the property line.
But you don't have any idea under your current drawing?
You are gonna leave a little buffer there, right?
What?
You are gonna leave a little buffer there, right?
Yeah,
The way you got it drawn, it is.
that's right, and we plan to have a buffer there. Mr. Gary Coffman's gonna build a big house right back there, right on the other side of that. And I had this conversation with him, he's gonna build a house, we're gonna leave a green buffer there, we're gonna leave the trees. In other words, I wanna be a good neighbor, I live there, I live in that community with all these people, and you don't see any of my neighbors in here complaining. So, we're gonna do everything we can to keep it clean and keep it in that yellow area there as far as construction stuff, because there's gonna be construction stuff.
Mr. Wall, I got a question.
I do that, but it's not necessarily Mr. Facility, but I want to, if Doug don't mind, go back to a couple of charts. No, yeah, keep going. Right there. There's a lot of discussion about M1 being the wrong fit. I see several C2, and now would this be a better fit in a C2 or C1 zone rather than a manufacturing? It doesn't manufacture, based on what I understand. It's not manufacturing anything. Would it be a better fit to be in a C1 or C2?
Well, again, I go by the words of the ordinance, and while not everything in the ordinance, there's a list. It tells me what is M1, what is M2, and I showed you the very first slide that its contractors are, by our own code, supposed to be in M1. This particular use, I'll tell you right now, even if C2, if it listed electrical, plumbing, HVAC contractors in C2, I still think, personally, as your planner, this is the wrong spot for that. Yes, you have the mini warehouses that are across the street. Well, they're there.
But you haven't answered the question. So, would this be better off, because it's not a manufacturer? He's not making anything there. And I know you got language that says, plumbing shop and everything else, but isn't it closer to C2 than M1?
Well, it's kind of unique that you even call it manufacturing. The traditional term in planning would be industrial. So do I think this qualifies as industrial use? Absolutely. Light industrial? Absolutely. That's why M1 is more, M2 would not be appropriate. That's more intense. Now, as the Board of Commissioners who write the ordinance, could you put these type of contractors into the C2? Absolutely. That's a decision that obviously in the past went one way and you could decide it another. But when I look at the list of uses that's in the M1, this is where this use fits. Could you put it in C2? Yes, you could.
C2C as a condition.
Yeah. Well, if you conditioned that you would have to put conditions on it, but yes.
So the only fabrication you do is ductwork, and
So same thing he's going to do at your house. If he didn't do there, he's going to do it at your yard. But he put it in.
So you and the other thing we haven't mentioned, this is part of our gateway. So the gateway ordinance applies, and so I'm sure you're aware of that. So that comes to green space, signage, all that stuff. So, all right. Well, let's talk about the water. I live out there too, and it rained a little bit yesterday. We didn't get the 3 inches that we got the other day, but I rode out there. And Mr. Murphy, I appreciate you showing those pictures, but and coming to see me because I agree with you. There's one driveway pipe on Harold Road that needs some attention. During that rain yesterday, obviously there was no water coming out of that retention pond. It was all coming from the ditch, and it was running down through there. And there's one driveway out there. I'm not sure who it is, and maybe that's something road department needs to take a look at. Needs to be cleared up, because if that driveway pipe was cleared, then the water would have somewhere to go. Right now, you go out there, you'll clearly see it. There's a bunch of sticks and leaves and stuff, just like you see on Thompson Road after a good rain. It's leaves and sticks are going to find their way there. But I do appreciate you bringing those pictures in, because it did highlight, during that rain that pond was doing what it's supposed to do.
That was, just to be noted too, that was a real short rain.
Yeah, and it was,
Time of the year, it rains a lot.
the ditches are pretty steep, and the water did go down through there. But like you said, there was one yard that was impacted where the water washed over, maybe just needed, because there is a branch down there that's where all this water goes, has for a long time. So, Mr. Knight,
Yes.
I mean, so you've got a church. Have any churches expressed an interest in the building? I mean, and it's really none of my business, but, I mean, so it's going to be something.
They want to lease it for pennies on the dollar, or they want to buy it for pennies on the dollar.
Well, my point is, it's, if it's an AR, it's going to be a house or a church by special exception, which was done, 21 years ago? So what's it going to be? So so it's kind of a rhetorical question.
I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's going to be something, and it's not going to be a church.
And so that's my point. It's going to be something.
It can be apartments, so we can start right away. I mean,
So-
it's going to be something.
And Mr. Courier, to your point, I certainly appreciate it. I don't want to dominate the conversation here.
I have a question.
That is my neighborhood. I'm out there, and this building got built 20-something years ago. I don't think anybody's going to turn it into a house. It's on Highway 19. It's, and as we know, 80% of the county is zoned AR currently. So, to always fall back on, well, it's zoned AR. If you look right there, on the corner of Harold Road and Highway 19, how long do we honestly think that large tract of land is going to be zoned AR? It's just a matter of time. And I know that's one of the things that we're talking about with our current ordinances. So, so I say all that to kind of address the spot zoning concern, and I appreciate it. I'm there. The two things that concerned me were this whole requirement of making it a M1. And again, you're doing your job. Now we got to do our job. So, so.
Yeah, I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
One related to that, couldn't we address it by making it similar to what we did on the last one, specific to this project? If it is going to be an M1 zoning, we say it's a contingency to be only for this specific project, or not grandfathered in if generations from now they decide to sell it.
Well, I don't think it needs to be zoned M1 at all.
Okay. What's your other question, then?
Other question, could you go back to that map, the development plan? Yeah. Mr. Facility, are you planning to do any type of study on that pond with the additional asphalt? Because it definitely will impact it, adding that much asphalt.
The county approved it. Scanlon Engineer did the thing, set it up for a parking lot. It was done when the building was built, and it was set up for a parking lot. So, I don't see where I need to, because it was already set up for one. The county approved it. I've got the drawings back there that's got the engineering and the architect stamp and the county, where the county does it.
So the pond was designed for this to be asphalt?
Yes, sir, and Miss Morgan, she's here somewhere. Miss Morgan even said that when it was designed and built, they paid a lot of extra money to have all that done, because their plan was to put it in a parking lot, and it just never materialized.
Gotcha.
What's your average? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
And if you look at that, we're not doing the entire green space. If you look all around the property, there's still a lot of green space in there. There's a lot of green space all around the building. Where the trucks come in, they turn, they back in. You see this narrow strips right there. The whole property is not going to be asphalt. It's just enough for us to get in that park and get our vehicles in and out and run our equipment in and out.
What's your tractor trailer traffic?
We probably
on
have,
average.
I'd say one a day. Now, there will be times when they have three, but average is one a day. Box trucks, 5-ton, whatever. And most of your delivery trucks like UPS, FedEx, we have those come and go every day, so, all day long. Most of those are smaller trucks.
And you gotta maintain a storefront? Customer walk in?
Yeah, oh, yes, sir. And you'd be surprised at the stuff we sell across the counter, parts and filters and that kind of stuff. A lot of people come in to pay their bill.
Yes, sir. Okay. Gentlemen, if anybody doesn't have any questions, is there a motion on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve this at a C2 with conditions to be, doesn't really need to be any condition to a C2. I just don't think it's an M1 and C2.
Okay, so you have no conditions. They already had in the gateway ordinance.
Right.
All right, so I have a motion to approve this as C2.
And I'll second that
Okay.
with some further conditions.
We don't have any yet, so lay it on us.
For obvious reasons, in the back, I like to see at least a 25-foot buffer.
Chairman, before we go on with the second, to add,
Yeah, thank you. All right. So you can't, all right. So you want to withdraw your motion so that he can make the initial motion with his conditions?
If you look at Robert's Rules of Order, if Commissioner Ellington wants to make an amendment to my motion, it is perfectly legal.
Good with that? Parliamentarian?
Look it up.
I don't think there'll be a problem.
You have to have a motion before you can make a condition.
Well, this original motion could have had conditions in it.
I'll tell you what.
Parliamentarian doesn't have a problem with it.
Since y'all don't know that rule, and you can look it up after this meeting, I will rescind my motion if Mr. Ellington will proceed.
Okay. I'll make a motion with conditions that we create around we're gonna have to follow with the gateway ordinance on the frontage of the highway. All of that complies. But in the storage area back here,
Yes.
for lack of a better word, storage area, you maintain at least a 25-foot buffer all the way around it.
Okay.
And potentially some type of fencing barrier, just so it can't be seen from any, during the fall months of the year from any of the adjoining property owners. And any other conditions that.
So how do you do conditionally, potentially? Either they are or they aren't, right?
They
Are you going to do it? So you're requiring him to put the.
Yes.
Okay, you said.
This area potentially as a storage area.
Okay, so if that's used as a storage area, you want a 25-foot buffer with a.
Some type of barrier fence with some, screen fence.
And in your motion.
Along with the trees?
Yes.
In
Just for the fall times of the year, the neighbors can't see stuff through the tree.
All right, so I have a motion. Is there a second?
Wait a minute. And in your motion, C2.
Yes.
I guess what I got. C2 with a 25-foot buffer with fencing around the storage facility in the back.
Second.
All right, have a motion made and seconded. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if you may.
Yes, sir.
Just grant me a question to the attorney. Since it was advertised as M1, would we have to technically completely redo this process from the beginning?
yes.
Well, when we've changed it in the past, we've not re-advertised.
I don't know if we changed to a
Plainer
different.
answer is no, but I'm not the attorney, so.
I like that answer.
I don't think you would have to.
I think you're gonna get the same answer. How many meetings you have?
Okay. All right, so I have a motion made and seconded. Hearing no further discussion, Ms. Jones.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes, thank you. All right. Let me find where I'm at here. Okay, we're almost done. Gentlemen, next on the agenda is public comments. Public comments, Mr. Sattler, you were signed up, but I think you took care of that on the other, and you still won't?
This is for my personal.
Okay, all right.
Because I'm here killing two birds with one stone.
Yes, sir.
Same night.
I get it, I get
I
it.
actually had to bypass the meeting.
So same rules.
Same rules.
Mr.
Steve
Sattler.
1060 Lehman Drive. Just spoke about my property being adjacent to the storage buildings. I've actually contacted two of the commissioners here about my concerns of lack of progress with that particular owner following through on his responsibility that this board put on him. And I guess my concern, I've been going through the process, Mr. Courier, and I'm not too worried about that process. I'm following the process. I've actually got text messages. I won't do it tonight because this is kind of spur of the moment, me talking. But let's just go back over a year and a half. That's just the last message I got from that property owner. He said he would take care of the concerns that we have, and that's the last conversations I had with him. I think Mr. Courier is having problems maybe with the zoning officers giving the citations to him. And my concerns are pretty much that he was just here about 2 months ago getting another property zone. So I would like to see a procedure change as far as the questions you ask. A potential person is doing rezoning property. All you got to ask Mr. Courier, does he have current properties? Are they up to compliance standards? If they're not, then put that property on hold. Some people will respond to a letter, me. Some people respond to, hey, this is my word, I tell you I'm going to do it, I'm going to teach, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it, me again. But some people will respond to a financial. If you hit on financially, which you stop a project that they want to make money on, they will get what they need to get done. So I'm just saying, put some accountability back behind what this board actually puts out there. I mean, you put conditions on the property, put some accountability on that condition. Because from my understanding, this particular property owner can just ignore these citations and pay whatever the fee is, pay $150 when they go to court, and just keep paying the fee and not follow through on that. So that's a concern that I have as a resident of this county. And I will make a mention of what was just decided. I do think that you will have to send that back to planning, because you advertise it as M1. The whole community advertises it as M1. And now you changed it here, you changed something that actually was advertised here. It was not advertised as commercial. So that's a procedural issue. I deal with procedures in my civic duty. This is a civic duty here. I think that was something you have to send back. So this may not be legal as far as how you actually approve this particular, and you're right, Ms. Ellington, it may go through the same process and the same result. It's a procedure issue. So again, I think you need to check into that, because you can't change something that you actually had advertised and then come here and change it, because you didn't give the public a chance to actually voice their concerns for or against that particular change. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sal. Okay. Next item, gentlemen, is the consent agenda. For your consideration is the approval of the June 2024 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion on the consent?
So moved. Second.
Motion made, second on consent. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. All right, next item, new business. Discussion and acceptance of the 2025 budget calendar. Mr. Tinsley?
Mr. Chairman, this budget calendar very closely equals the calendar that we've worked on for the past 2 years. I do want to make one additional comment. We did back up a couple of items that would give us the opportunity to adopt the budget earlier than the 10th, which would address some of Commissioner Ellington's concerns from the last cycle, where he was encouraging us to try to get it done by the end of November rather than the first meeting in December. We would have that opportunity, and if you see, our public hearing would be November 12th. That would give us the opportunity to adopt on the November 26th, but you would still statutorily be able to continue that all the way to the 10th, or later than that if you wanted to have a call meeting, but I don't anticipate that's where we're going to be in this budget cycle. But We did take all the commissioners' comments in the last cycle to heart, and including the recommendation that Commissioner Ellington made. So our internal goal would be to have you ready and able to consider an adoption on November 26th. That's
November 26th?
Yeah, on the calendar it reads as our drop dead deadline on the 10th, but the way our county clerk proposed the advertising of the public hearing, we could do earlier than that.
Okay. And that's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving falls on 28th.
That's right.
So it's not the week after. Okay. Anybody have any questions on the proposed calendar?
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. All right. Final item, comments. Mr. Tinsley?
Mr. Chairman, I have two. I submitted them both in writing in an executive summary with two attached reports. The first is our draft financing schedule for the T-SPOS bond, revised after we had the meetings with the hospital about coverage for their debt issuance. So we went back and revised our financing schedule, which also includes now the completion and submission of our annual financial report, which gets us a step further. So we have, as you'll see from that schedule, sorry, it's opening a little slow. So the board finalizing all the necessary documents the week of August 12th, and then closing memorandum outlining distribution of funds on the 19th, and the actual bond closing on the 29th. Second item I have, and I got several comments via email, so I won't go into detail, but I had the full OAC meeting report through the end of May. We have another OAC meeting tomorrow. That will generate another report. I will circulate that. There were several questions about that I did address by email about scheduling and about where we are budgetary wise. Just very quickly, this project is on schedule, and we're looking for mover own-in mid-October. The question that came up about budget, we're still looking to underrun the budget around $300,000 at the end of the project. And with those two comments, Mr. Chairman, I yield back my time to you.
Ms. Jones, you have anything for us?
I don't.
Mr. English?
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Wilder?
I just want to commend all those that came in and voiced their concerns so passionately about the items in that particular area on both of those rezoning. I do want to thank them for coming and doing that. And I want to make sure I mention that all decisions that are made by this board here is not easy, and it's not designed to make everybody happy. There's going to be some that no matter how you do it, what you do, it's going to upset one or two or
You
three
can
or
pave a
four.
road and upset somebody.
That's exactly right.
Yes, you can.
But I do appreciate that.
Just look at social media.
A bunch of them. Piss off a bunch of them, can't you? Thank y'all for showing up, and the church crowd that left too. We're here to listen to the county, the people, and what's good for the county. I also want to make a comment about his problems with the storage units. Are we having problems with the storage units? I think we need to address it if we are, because I was sitting there when we, gave him the go-ahead, and he had certain things he was supposed to do, and nobody's above that. So, other than that,
I don't think anybody up here is aware of any issues. So I think it would behoove us to get the commissioners an answer to that as soon as possible.
And other than that, y'all have a great night. It's time to eat some chicken.
Mr. Ellingson? We're not done yet.
I just got one thing I want to say is that, you know, there was a lot of passionate people in here tonight about different subjects, two particularly different subjects. And I just kind of want to piggyback off of what Commissioner Wilder said. Sometimes we have some tough choices to look at, and sometimes we're looking at them through a different lens than the people that is impacted. But we all, I honestly say, sometimes we make decisions that's not real popular to everybody, but we try to do the best we can and try to make the best decisions we can. And I hope we did that tonight, and I hope we do it going into the future. But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody on this board wants to do something malicious to the county or try to harm somebody. That's not our intent. But folks, if you don't know, if you ain't heard it on the radio, you ain't heard it in the paper, I'm telling you from Commissioner James Ellington, Upps County and Thomaston is growing. And it's going to grow whether you like it or I like it. I don't like it, but it's going to grow, okay? And we just got to manage that growth, okay, the best we can. And try to develop in the best way we can. And there isn't a playbook for that. Okay, and other than that, that's all I got to say.
I got a word to say before I go.
Sir, you can't. So,
Yep, I just have one item. I was just going to thank A and B for calling Upson County home for all these years. It's great business, and I want to see them stay here. There's plenty of other places they could definitely call home, so I appreciate it.
okay, and I want to echo what he said. You've been in business for 60 years here. You've been a great partner for many of those years with the county and a lot of other institutions around here. And I hope this is a very lucrative. When I say that, creating jobs and revenue for your employees and your families. I do want to address one little thing that, a comment was made that you run into obstacles with the county. I think anybody, I know we hear it all the time. Somebody come up here and goes to a building and zoning, want to build a house. Well, there's hurdles you got to go through. Those are not designed to be impediments. It's just to make sure that you're protecting and do the right thing. I, for one, asked you to go talk to the IDA membership about it. And that went on for a long time, and there's been some significant changes with the IDA. And the initial conversation you had with the IDA was with the old IDA, and it just wasn't going to work out, was it? So we went back and we tried to do it again, but the economy changed, right? You and I even had that conversation. Build, the cost to build, the cost to buy an existing structure. We're seeing that everywhere. It's cost. So I hope you don't think, nor there's anybody else in this room or out there that thinks that the county is not business friendly. And I won't even go about the other one. All I'll say about the other one is they were not told no. Look at the minutes. Look at the minutes. So it's been a long night. It's been 3 hours. I think that's probably close to a record. The last thing I'll say, you made a comment about the county growing. And I sit here tonight, and I'm from Upson County. I grew up here. Yeah, I was gone for 30 years. But I came home, and I look around the room, and when I look around the room, the evidence of growth is the new faces in this room. You've been here your whole life. You've been here your whole life. Folks of us have been here our whole life. you've been here your whole life. You look around the room. These are new people. These are new faces. They're moving here. They're coming here. They're buying homes. They're buying homes. They're buying homes. They're contributing to the community. They're supporting local businesses. The biggest challenge we have as a board is to manage that growth, as you just said. And we have ordinances that are somewhat rigid. We have a comp plan that's a guide. We do the best we can. And I appreciate you, Mr. Curry, and I appreciate the staff, because you doing your job, you give it to us, and then we make the decisions. So with that, is there any other final comments? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank y'all. Appreciate your patience.
Might as well just go on to act right now.
It can be amended after.
Appreciate that.